The man asked the couple if they vowed to love each other and be together in sorrow and in joy. The main character noted that the wedding was like a real one. Her husband turned to her. The man asked Liesel why she wasn't answering. The girl was very embarrassed, and the boy next to her happily awaited her answer. So the girl swore. And after these words, the priest said that they could exchange rings that would symbolize their love. In the name of the goddess Armacan, he was able to declare them husband and wife, and yet Liesel went for it and feels like a greedy woman because she married purely for money. Finally, it all ended, and the maid noticed that the mistress had worked very hard today, so she offered her a cup of tea. Liesel simply begged for her to bring it to her, so the maid hurried but asked for a minute. Weddings are so tiring. Liesel only invited close relatives. Therefore, she would not say that the celebration dragged on, but she was still tired to death. Liesel thinks she should start by saying that she didn't expect things to turn out this way at all. A grand banquet hall and expensive dress shoes and accessories, everything was at the highest level. As fake as their marriage was to me, he was still Duke Chester Hylos, the most influential rich man in the empire. It's a bit sad that she had to call her parents, so she's not sure if this year will go smoothly. Someone knocked Mrs. Liesel immediately allowed entry. She said that she would drink tea later, so she told the maid to leave it here, but she heard a man's voice asking if she was ready, and this scared Liesel very much. Chester stood in front of her. The lady did not understand at all why he was here, and in a robe at that. So Liesel noticed that he was almost naked, as his mother gave birth to him, and that was too much exposed flesh, so she told him to get dressed. But Chester believed he had the right to spend the night with his wife. Liesel was horrified, and then she laughed and noted that he had made a very funny joke, and that he meant spending the night with her. But the Duke did not understand what this meant because this was their first wedding night. Liesel was in complete shock and didn't understand whether he was serious about telling her this. When Chester started to approach her, Liesel asked him to stop and asked what kind of wedding night this was since they hadn't agreed on that. The man noted that since they were now husband and wife, then of course they would have this too, and then asked if she needed time to think about it. Liesel really didn't want him to approach her with such a determined look because that was nonsense. She didn't understand at all what had come over him, and after that Chester reached out to her to kiss her. After that he told Liesel not to even dream about sleep today, but that was just outrageous. The contract didn't say anything like that. It all started 3 months ago. The father needed some time to pay the man everything. He said that he had already waited for 3 months, so they were not going to wait any longer. Liesel's father swore that next time there would be money, otherwise he could do whatever he wanted. After this, the man thought about it and said that if there was no money, then he would have to pay with his daughter. Liesel had done, and you didn't understand at all what this man was saying because he didn't think that his daughter could be at stake. But he was happy because he said that he would do whatever he wanted. If he did not want such participation for his daughter, then he must return the debt. He decided to give his father 2 months. The Baron tried to stop him, but the man had already started to leave with his servants. The Baron told Liesel that he was very ashamed of himself and tried to ask her forgiveness. But the girl turned to her father and said that nothing terrible would happen to her. They still had time, so there was no need to worry. The father immediately ran up to her and told her that she was right and asked her to trust him. He promised that he would never give her to anyone. Liesel told him that she believed him and would go to the room. Father said that she was probably a little shaken up, so she should rest a little. The Baron asked his wife if she had seen that their daughter had not been rude, and the mother noticed that she had grown up. The girl did not understand at all how bad things were for Liesel, that her parents had such a reaction. She'd probably have to sell the house. She just hated Liesel Frozen. In fact, the main character is not Liesel. She just fell asleep one day while reading a book, and when I woke up, I was already in Liesel's body frozen from the novel. She was part of the crowd, but she didn't care about it. The problem was this girl's hedonistic, snobbish views. Liesel's demands were simply overwhelming, but instead of refusing her, the Baron went into debt. In the end, almost all of their property was taken away, and they themselves were mired in debt. But she didn't understand why she had to deal with all this. She was starting to get annoyed that she was the one who started all this mess and she was the one enjoying the wealth. But when it came to taking the rap, our main character immediately took the rap. Well, now is not the time for whining. You need to think about where you will get some money. Liesel remembered that there were a huge number of expensive things lying around her. She thought that was enough and decided to sell all this junk. She pulled out everything that could be sold, but she's not sure how much money she will be able to get for it. Because she doesn't know the local prices, so she has to ask the butler to sell them. When the man heard about this, he was in complete shock. The lady decided to ask how much they would give for it. Butler noted that he didn't even know because the things were already second-hand. But that's all she can do now. The butler was shocked that the lady was trying to help her father, who was deep in debt. This even made the butler cry and start saying that he knew this day would come. It was the first time in his 20 years as a butler that he was so happy. He was so proud of the lady. The girl, of course, was grateful to him, but she didn't really want to hug him. She started to leave and informed the butler that she needed to take a walk. She didn't think she would be able to reach the 80 million she has now. Things are bad because she doesn't know where to get money, and not for 2 months. Liesel remarked that it would be nice if they fell on her straight from the sky. After these thoughts, a piece of paper flew into my face. She turned to the Lord and asked him to throw her money, not paper, and she also decided to see what was there. It was a wanted poster for a child aged 5. The reward was 100 million. The girl remembered that Lapel was the main character of the novel, which meant that now was the time when he disappeared. Liesel was very glad that in the novels there is no law prohibiting improving the lives of the time travelers, because she knows its location and she definitely remembers it. She decided to start with this because she was so eager to get 100 million in cash. It seems like this pile is bigger, maybe he's in this bag. But for some reason this mountain turned out to be just plain trash. It was just disgusting, and she couldn't understand at all who would throw out food waste like that. The smell is simply divine. I need to stop wandering around this dump, but she is a measured flower and will not swear, so she decided to continue. 100 million shillings is no joke. She will find him even if she has to dive into 100 more garbage rivers. She doesn't want to be the beggar she was in her previous life. That's why she's so determined. All her clothes were already tattered by mountains of garbage, but she still did not understand where he was. Suddenly, she heard some rustling behind her. The lady really hoped that she had not misheard and went to check on him. She couldn't believe that a boy could crawl out of that pile because it smelled so bad. This boy called her mom. Distinguishing features are black hair and red eyes. Liesel was overjoyed that she had already found her money. When she touched him, he was all on fire. So she dragged him to her estate. The parents were in complete horror, and the father did not understand what had happened. Liesel said that she would explain everything later, but now she needed to call a doctor immediately. The doctor reported that the boy was suffering from malnutrition and body pain. If he sings the medicine and also rests, he will soon recover. After that, the lady said goodbye to the doctor, thanking him. The doctor could not believe that they had become so poor that they forced the child to writhe in pain from hunger. And Liesel just wanted to say that they didn't starve him. He had no strength left, but he would live. And that was good. He's definitely the main character. She just wiped his face, but he's already glowing. Liesel had no idea how this little child had ended up in such a situation. It must have something to do with his father. He lived in unity with his beloved woman for a long time. He met her while walking on the outskirts of the city, and she later gave birth to Lapel. But the Duke Lapel's grandfather was against their wedding since the girl was a commoner. It was only after his death that they got married. It was said that they had an accident on the way back. Liesel remembered that this was why Lapel, being the only survivor, hid in the dump. Liesel only now realized that she had been so happy about the money she wanted to shake down at the expense of a child who had just lost his parents. After that, she really wanted to apologize, and also thought about what she should tell him when he woke up. And after thinking about it, she decided that she wouldn't say anything because they would never see each other again once she got her money, so I had to worry. In the novel, the Duke melted before Lapel, so he will take good care of him. The man assured Gertsov that this boy was his nephew, because if you look at his hair and eyes, you can see it right away. Only members of the Hielos family have such. The man agreed and noted that he looked like his nephew. The man happily said something about a reward, but after the Duke's look, he became very scared. He decided to give him a reward for his efforts. The gentleman asked the butler to put everything on the table for now. He had brought their favorite juice from lapel. That's why the gentleman asked him to check if all the money was in place. Meanwhile, the man gave the boy the best juice in the world to try. After the boy tried this juice, the Duke became very angry. He said that it was that man's child and did not understand how he dared to lie to the Duke. The Duke said that he was not the only one here who was so smart they had to check every child, because all the people decided that the Duke could be fooled. This gentleman is very annoyed by these greedy people. He immediately kicked them out because he did not want to see trash in his estate. It would be easier if he knew what the boy looked like. The Duke really hoped that everything would be fine with Lapelian. Liesel's parents were in complete shock when they found out that the child was Lapelian Hielos. Father believed that it was the same one who had disappeared after the accident recently. Liesel reported that she had found him unconscious and decided to bring him to them. The father told his wife that this was not their grandson, and Liesel did not understand at all why they immediately thought of such a thing because she was only 20. Lapel will be delivered to the Duke as soon as his condition improves. She also asked them not to block the passage and for Dolly to check his condition. It was time for them to go too. And also her mother gave her the clothes she asked for. Marchen gave them. These are her childhood clothes. It's good that her mother kept them. The main character noticed that they love their daughter so much. All her things are carefully stored in the mansion, even such old ones. She did not understand at all why such kind people had such a daughter. Meanwhile, the boy woke up, so Liesel decided to ask him how he was feeling and hoped that he could sit up by now. She decided to check and realized that he didn't have a fever, and the boy called her mom. But she said that she was not his mother, and this surprised the boy very much. And then he started crying, and I couldn't figure out where his mother was. Liesel begged him not to cry. Lapel, horrified, asked where his mom and dad were and why they weren't with him. It seems that at that time Lapel lost his memory due to shock, and he could not even remember his mother's face. It was too hard a time for a child, and you can't tell a child about something like that. So the girl took the baby in her arms and said that everything would be fine if he stopped crying. His family is waiting for them. As soon as he gets better, they will immediately go to them. The boy was surprised that she was not his family. Unfortunately for him, she was just Liesel. The boy repeated her name, so Liesel decided to tell him he was Lapel Hielos. She would call him by his shortened name, and the boy didn't mind at all. Liesel noticed that he had already stopped crying, and that he was simply a fine and clever boy. Now all that was left was to get well, so the boy asked Liesel what was needed for that. The lady told him that everything was simple and that he needed to eat pills and rice. After that, she took him to the bathroom and said that he needed to take a bath first, because she only wiped it with a damp towel so it still smells like slop. Liesel told the boy that he also needed to wash himself in order to grow up healthy. The duckling was already waiting for him, so she decided to check the water temperature for him first. When Lapel touched the water, he was simply horrified and began to scream that he did not want to swim and he did not need it. Still, Liesel persuaded the boy to take a bath and later told him that he was very cute and handsome after the bath. Lapel did a good job, but now he needs to gather his strength and eat. Liesel fed the boy with a spoon. He said she was bad because she deliberately flattered him. So Liesel apologized and said that she would no longer promise to praise you only when it was necessary. Lapel said he didn't want to eat anymore, but she decided to use the airplane trick. And the boy got so carried away that she managed to land the spoon right in his mouth. Lapel liked it, so she was very glad that she did it. After the second spoon, the boy decided to ask what an airplane was. She decided to explain in simple words and said that it was a carriage that flies through the sky. Lapel was simply delighted with this game. Suddenly, the main character wondered what she was doing. She was planning to pass it on to the Duke as soon as his condition improved. Earlier, the boy said that he did not want to go into the water because it was suffocating, and he would not go. This fear, apparently the cart fell right into the water during the accident. This poor child was able to survive. He had only just turned 5 years old, and she had no idea what kind of fate this child had. Liesel couldn't help but console him. He was too sweet and kind. The girl did not understand at all how a child could be so smart. She believed that such a boy could not be ignored or left without love. Liesel decided that she would take care of him until he was in the hands of the Duke, so she told the boy that it was time for them to go to his parents. The masked man beat his subordinates because they still hadn't found the boy's body, because he really needed it. Liesl told Lapel not to be afraid because they don't bite. She decided to introduce him to her parents. The parents were simply delighted and did not understand how such a cute creature could exist on Earth. Liesl asked the boy not to be afraid because they were her parents. Her mother greeted him and also apologized for scaring him. The boy was very surprised when he saw her mother and turned to Liesl and said that there was another Liesl standing there. The girl laughed because he was talking about it so sweetly. She really does look like her because it's her mother. After that, her father intervened. The boy whispered to Liesl that it was definitely not Liesl, and he didn't even know how to say it out loud. Mama invited everyone to come to the table because the dinner would get cold. Liesl asked Lapel to call him Grandpa. The boy was delighted that he would be eating by himself. Liesl noticed that he was not eating the carrots. So I told him that he had to eat it too, because to be healthy, you had to eat everything. Liesl is a mean girl. The wife turned to the Baron and asked if he remembered that as a child, their daughter also did not eat carrots. Her father also added that she also refused to eat bell peppers. Liesl did not understand at all why her parents decided to bring this up now. Lapel was delighted with the way his grandfather ate and then asked him to be quieter. Liesl wished the boy sweet dreams and said that they would see each other in the morning, but Lapel asked her not to leave. The girl thought that something had happened or that he was hurting somewhere. She completely forgot that he spent a lot of time at the dump and that he was probably scared to be there alone. So I asked Lapel if they should sleep together and the boy confirmed it. After that, she decided to go to bed with him and the boy fell asleep right away. Things were bad, because if she gets even more attached to him, it will be difficult to give him to the Duke. Lapel happily showed his grandparents what he had drawn. The boy showed where his grandfather, grandmother, Liesl, and Marchen were. They were all simply delighted. The father noted that their boy was simply a genius and a pure artist. The butler could not believe that he had drawn him too. They spent a lot of time together, and when they did, his parents couldn't let him go. Liesl asked them to stop, but they asked for one more day. Well, the lady said decisively that they had to think about his family too because they were worried. Lapel is very happy about the hair because it is going to his home. Liesl was glad that he had recovered sooner than she thought. If they had stayed together longer, her heart would have eventually been broken, and it would have been difficult to exchange it for a reward. She really wanted to get some money and forget about him. The butlers allowed entry into the duchy. Liesl was shocked with you that this garden was so huge. Lapel asked what it was because something was shooting straight up into the sky. This is a fountain. Lapel was absolutely delighted because this house is much bigger than Liesl's. The girl knew that the Duke was rich, but this mansion simply screamed about the obscene wealth of its owner. The butler greeted the lady and said that he would bring the Duke, but it would take a minute. Liesl and the boy waited in the waiting room. Lapel noticed that he was a very handsome butler, and Liesl didn't understand at all why she was so nervous. Perhaps she was oppressed by the luxury of this mansion. Lapel asked the girl if everything was okay, and she immediately said with a smile that everything was fine. "The Duke is coming." Chester apologized for the wait and then introduced himself. He was described as a very attractive man, but that's too much, because this is too much beauty for one man. Mother Nature really tried her best. Liesl couldn't help but say that he was really hot, and then he realized that he said it out loud. She made sure he didn't hear about it because her character constantly gets into some kind of trouble. Lapel asked again, and asked if it was as hot as food and thought it was delicious. Liesl has a feeling that Murphy's Law only works with time travelers. This is a real setup. The butler said they could talk for now, and Liesl asked the boy to remain silent while she and his uncle talked. The butler said that he would prepare some refreshments and come. Liesl apologized for introducing herself late, and then she informed him that this child was the one he was looking for. After that, the lady asked Lapel to say hello. After that, the boy said hello. Liesl didn't understand at all what this intent gaze was about. It was obvious that it was his nephew. Liesl Frozen is the daughter of Baron Frozen, and the butler informed him that it was she who was waiting for him in the reception room. The gentleman asked if this was another waste of time. According to rumors, she lives a luxurious lifestyle, which is why her family is almost bankrupt. She must have picked up this child somewhere and brought him here for a reward. The butler noted that this was possible, but he needed to make sure of everything. After that, the gentleman said that the butler should meet himself. The man did not understand why his master was so decisive. Considering the kind of person she was, he was sure that she only needed the award to satisfy her desires. And the butler noted that apparently the previous swindlers had driven him to despair. They were ready to sell their own children for money, and it was so disgusting. The Duke will never accept such scum as human beings. Liesl didn't even know if she'd imagined that he'd just been staring at her. Chester decided that this woman was the worst kind of scum. No one would dare bring such a skinny child here. She deliberately starved the child to appear more convincing. The gentleman asked the little boy if it was true that he was Lepelian Helos, and the boy confirmed it. And then she added that Liesl told him that was his name. Now Chester understood everything. The gentleman asked Lady Frozen where she found this child. Liesl hesitated because if she told him honestly, she would probably upset him, but still better the bitter truth than a sweet lie. The gentleman thought she was trying to come up with a more plausible location. Liesl said it was the dump. Chester realized that she wanted him to feel sorry for the child and then asked why he was there. The lady didn't know either. Lepel noted that Liesl had told him that he didn't remember anything because of the accident. Chester noticed that this was a terribly cunning woman who forced the child to say such a thing so that he would not ask unnecessary questions. But he wouldn't give her a punch. He would immediately expose her lie. Liesl didn't understand at all why he was looking so intently. Chester angrily asked her why she was sure it was Lepel. The gentleman noted that he had lost his memory and did not even remember his name, so he did not understand at all how she could be sure that this was his nephew. Liesl angrily asked him why he was asking her such a thing. The Duke was surprised, and she noted that he himself had said that a child with black hair and red eyes was needed. Liesl brought such a thing to him, so she doesn't understand at all why he asks about such a thing if he himself gave such distinctive signs. She tried to bring him here, and for this she received such gratitude. The gentleman was sure that she was clearly a fraud. But he didn't understand why she was so confident. Now Liesl understands what those looks were. He doubts her honesty, and she also wanted to tell him to forget, because such a man cannot be considered hot. The two had a nasty battle for dominance. Lepel noted that they were playing a staring contest and that he was rooting for Liesl. The butler knocked on the door of the room, but when he saw the gentleman, he did not understand at all what was happening. The other one apologized for interrupting, but he had something to say. Chester had no idea where the juice was, but he was very happy because Liesl had won. The butler asked if everything was okay with the gentleman because his face was distorted. The butler whispered that the shelf had fallen and all the bottles of magic-dispelling potions had broken. Often I was simply horrified that there was nothing left. Butler ordered more, but the ingredients are branches, so everything will arrive in about a month. The gentleman was very angry that he would not be able to put this swindler in her place right now. The butler thought that perhaps in that case it would be worth sending this lady home for now. Chester turned to the lady and apologized and said that he would not be able to give the award until next month. And to be honest, it will only take them a month to get a potion to dispel the magic cast on their appearance. Liesl was simply in shock and asked him if he considered her a fraud. Chester noted that there had been precedents, so yes, there was suspicion. He also added that caution was a good trait. Still, the lady noted that his cynicism was justified, but it would be rude to tell her straight to her face that she was a fraud. Liesl didn't understand at all what kind of man this was. She didn't want to see him anymore, so it was time for them to leave. The lady asked him to contact her when he had the potion, and also told the boy that they needed to go. Chester asked her to stop, and the lady angrily asked what he wanted. The Duke told her to go herself, but to leave the child. This surprised the lady very much. The boy was very scared. It is obvious that Chester is the uncle, but he still does not believe it and suspects her of lying. But she doesn't quite understand why he asks to leave Lepel here. Liesl said that she doesn't want it and won't do it. The man believed that it was because of the reward, and said that if she was honest, then he swears on his name that he will repay her. Therefore, he asks her to keep this child. Liesl pointed out that that wasn't the point. She was also responsible for him until he accepted him as his nephew. So Liesl takes him home. But the Duke has noted that the conditions here will be better, so he does not understand at all why she does not want to leave him here. Liesl was very angry because he said that the conditions in her house were bad, so she asked the child if he liked it there or if he wanted to stay there. Lapel said that he did not want to stay there and wanted to go to his grandparents. Liesel told Hertz that the boy wanted to come home with her. Chester was very angry because he thought she was very impudent, so he said that if she took him now there would be no reward, but the butler tried to stop her. And he said that if she takes him now, it could be dangerous for both of them, so he asks the lady to think again. Liesel was surprised when the butler told her that the Hylos family had many enemies. It is indeed true in the original story there were many conspiracies against them, and there were many assassination attempts. Many atrocities were committed against the Hylos family at that time. Therefore, if rumors spread that she has a child of the Hylos family, then they too could be attacked. It's possible that innocent people might even get hurt, but if she leaves Lapel here and goes away, it could be traumatic for the boy. The Duke decided that he would definitely expose her lie and wanted her to try to pretend that her words and actions were sincere. Chester believed that it was not enough to simply brainwash a child, you also had to seem caring. It was so calculating, he was even surprised. The gentleman said that if she had difficulty deciding, then she could also stay with them for this month. Liesel asked again because she was very surprised, and the butler thought he had misheard. She was given a room. The boy was simply delighted because it was very spacious, and Liesel said that it was very beautiful here. The butler said that he had already warned her family that she would be staying with them so she could rest easy and not worry. The butler also introduced himself as Roan. The lady asked if she could ask him to prepare the carriage for tomorrow because she needed to pack her things and tell her parents about everything in more detail. Lapel doesn't like to wake up alone, so she needs to get back before he wakes up, which means she needs to leave early in the morning. Roan promised to do everything in the best possible way, and for now she can rest. As Mr. Chester said, she is a magnificent swindler since she continues to play her role even in front of him. The luxurious mansion will appeal to her taste, and she will swallow the bait. It is only a matter of time before the whole truth is revealed, so the butler must report to him about her every move. The butler was very interested in why his master was so fixated on this. Liesel asked the boy why he wasn't sleeping. The night shimmer would be very beautiful to me, and he would like to have 1 star from there. But Liesel told him that they couldn't be caught. Lapel got very upset and started saying that he really wanted a star from the sky. So Liesel decided to play along and said that she had caught a star. Well, when she showed it to him, the boy was very upset because there was nothing in her hands. But Liesel told him that this couldn't be because all the stars in the world were in his eyes. Lapel said that he really does see and that there are stars in her eyes too. Liesel felt very sorry for her poor little heart because this little one was making the grown-up auntie melt into a puddle in front of him. The boy noticed that they had caught the stars, so he suggested that she sleep now. Everything went wrong, but she still had to take care of the boy. In the morning, she was so sleepy that she fell asleep in the carriage, but suddenly the carriage ran over a stone, and she woke up. She went home early in the morning, so she was a little tired. Her father didn't want to agree with her leaving for a whole month. It was so hard for her to convince them to let her go, but she wanted to get back quickly and sleep well. Liesel turned to the coachman and said that she needed to stop there for a while. She came out and said that she would come soon. As I expected, the market was very busy. From magic tools to food, there is everything here, and probably there are also decorative items with stars. Finally, she found it. The real stars are mortal and accessible to me, so she thinks that he will be very happy about this too. It's just beautiful. She noticed a very beautiful ball. Liesel was sure that he would definitely like it, but suddenly she met the Duke there. The butler was surprised when he saw the gentleman and said that they had already prepared the carriages. Chester said that in that case they should go. Roan decided to ask the gentleman again if he had to go there. The gentleman had already said that he was fulfilling all the wishes of this man. The butler hoped that it was worth it, and that he had really worthwhile information. Well, the gentleman will only be able to find out everything at a personal meeting. Gretzky asked him to try to finish his business as quickly as possible because they still have a meeting scheduled with the elders. Also, Roan knows that the master will be passing by the market, so he shouldn't look in there. Afterwards, the gentleman asked, "What about that woman and the child?" "The boy is sleeping and the miss went to her house early this morning." Roan shouted at the gentleman to stop leading him on and to stop buying these magic balls because they already had more than enough of them. Chester is late, so it's time to move. Rowan asked the mister not to ignore him, but no one listened to him. Suddenly, he remembered his brother and how he said that his son really liked the stars. "I watch the night sky. It spreads out with a very sweet and happy smile, and he thinks that such a smile is capable of touching even the heart of every person. Someday, his brother would be able to see his smile. Chester never thought that these would be his last words. He probably worries about his son there too, but Leon shouldn't worry because he will find Lapel to take care of his happiness. But for now, he has a few small problems. Chester noted that he thought she was at home, and Liesel noticed that she had finished her business there and decided to drop in here on the way back. Chester told her to take her hand away and walk around as she wished. Liesel didn't understand what he was talking about because she had touched him first. The saleswoman remarked that they had excellent taste. It has magic on it. If they touch the button, the ball will glow, and everyone really liked it, so only this one remained. Liesel decided that she would try to get it for Lapel, so she told the Duke that she had touched it first. Well, the gentleman said that they did it at the same time. She decided to hook him with the fact that he liked collecting cute trinkets. The gentleman thought it was a great hobby. Suddenly they heard a child telling his mom and dad to look away because his aunt and uncle were fighting over a toy. Liesel has pride, but she won't back down now, so she asked who it was and assumed it was Roan. When the Duke turned away, she managed to snatch the ball from his hands and quickly told the seller that she would take it. The Duke was indignant, but still, victory was on her side. Liesel thought that today was a beautiful day. Chester noticed that she looked happy, but it's just a toy. She's not a child to be happy about something like that. He was shocked with you that a woman greedy for gloss and luxury is happy with such a trifle, and he did not think that this was possible and almost believed in her game. Liesel asked the gentleman why he was standing there because they needed to move faster. And even that innocent smile is a lie. Chester said he was coming, so she had nothing to worry about. Liesel thought he was rude, but she turned away from the road. The men shouted at her to be careful and get out of the way. Liesel in turn was thinking that she needed to remember the boy's face when she too did not have time to finish her thought before she noticed a carriage flying towards her. All the people immediately ran to her, and the man apologized for the fact that his horses had gone very crazy. They started asking if everything was okay with the lady, and she said that she was alive. Chester said that if she was alive, he was asking her to get off him. Liesel remembered that when she turned around, he was already standing right in front of her, which is why she fell on him. Thanks to him, she wasn't hurt. Liesel thanked him and remarked that she must be heavy. The Duke only said that it was good that they weren't hurt. Chester walked up to the man and said that he had dropped the boxes and they looked heavy, so he would help. Liesel noticed that he was definitely not the man of her dreams, but he seemed like a good person. She noticed a small wound on her hand and thought it was caused by a fall, so she went to the gentleman and told him that his hand was hurt. But Chester turned away and said it was none of her business. The girl felt like a complete idiot because she thought he was a good man. He is far from being as honest as she is, but he still helps people, so she decided to help too. Liesel had a great time shopping. She bought a magic ball and some little things for the baby. It came out as many as 2 boxes. She was fine, but they didn't buy anything for Lapel, and if her memory serves her right, it was he who asked them to stay as guests. That's why she doesn't understand why he shouldn't buy them a couple of trinkets if he doesn't mind spending the money, of course. Already in the carriage, she thought that she should have gone into an expensive store to empty his wallet a little more. She heard the carriage stop, so she decided to ask the coachman what had happened. He said that Hertzon's carriage had broken down. The wheel has come off. It looks like she won't go any further. Lady Frozen is heading to the Hertz mansion so they can travel in the same carriage. Liesel didn't even know whether it was worth trying to find a common language with such a rude person, so she simply asked his lordship if he wanted to go with her. Chester said everything was fine and she could go first, which was what needed to be proven, so she said goodbye, but the servant asked her to wait for them. Scarecrow decided to ask again for the gentleman to lie with the lady, but Chester decided that he would wait here. The coachman thought that he would need to change the wheel, and it would take at least half a day to call a mechanic here. The Duke remembered the nobleman's words that he needed to return home quickly because he had a meeting. Liesel said she needed to get back before the boy woke up, so he needed to decide quickly. So the master agreed, and the lady was very upset because she hated him. In the end, they were traveling together and were very unhappy. There was too much luggage. So they had to sit opposite each other. She almost dies of suffocation. And also, the lady did not understand why he had such long legs with every shake their bodies touched. and this made her very nervous. Chester also wasn't happy with the fact that he was constantly bumping into her, so he tried to fold his legs differently. The situation only got worse now. The leg bent at the knee bounces with greater amplitude due to the shaking. Liesel didn't understand at all why he sat like that, because his legs took up all the space, so much so that even her legs didn't fit. The gentleman noticed that she was pushing his legs and was very unhappy. He is also uncomfortable, but at least he tries to think about her comfort, and she thinks only about her own. Because of him, the place has become even smaller, so she wants him to put his foot the way she was standing before, and she is very much a cheater, obviously. The carriage turned and the lady began to fall. She became very angry. Chester had no involvement whatsoever in what happened and was simply looking out the window. This is just wonderful because of her short legs. She will endure it. Apparently she doesn't want it, but it's better to endure it. She really wanted to sleep, but it would be difficult to fall asleep. It was uncomfortable here, so she tried to lie down somehow. The Duke was simply shocked that she just fell asleep after their fight. She really is sleeping, they are pretending. At such moments they look like an innocent child. After this, the gentleman decided to get ready immediately because he thought about something that was not necessary. He knows better than many that you can't judge a person by their appearance and clothes. He remembered being beaten when he interrupted the gentleman in mid-sentence. His brother defended him and said that Chester was still a child, but his father told Leon not to interfere at all. A father who should love his child more than anyone else acted like a cruel bastard. Therefore, one should never make hasty conclusions about people. Meanwhile, the lady was sleeping, and the gentleman had already begun to believe that she was pretending to be asleep, but suddenly she fell headfirst on the glass. Chester was surprised that she didn't feel the blow because it was quite loud. They hit some rocks, and he really wanted her to wake up and not be thrown all over the carriage. Still, he decided to catch her head so that it wouldn't break. He also justified it by saying that it was a reflex. After this, the girl began to cling even more to his hand and called him Mommy. He didn't understand at all what kind of strange woman this was. She was a complete eccentric and nothing else. Meanwhile, the servants tried to stop Lapel. The boy was in tears and calling for Liesel. The servant tried to explain to him that she would be back soon. The butler happened to meet them and asked what was going on. The maid reported that what was going on was that he had not seen Liesel immediately after waking up. They said she would be back soon, but he wouldn't listen. The butler was shocked with you that they had already made a circle around the living room. Services said they were a bit busy right now and would report back later. Roan joked that he had faith in them. So that's why she said she'd try to come before he woke up. Looking out the window, he realized that she had already arrived. He was very pleased because the boy would calm down as soon as he saw her. The Duke was still holding her head. The butler opened the doors and immediately lowered her onto the window. Roan didn't understand at all what had happened to the master's carriage and why they had returned together. Chester said that the wheel came off and they collided on the way, so they arrived together. Meanwhile, a lady was getting out of the carriage. She had a very bad headache. After that, the lady said that everything was fine, and she probably bumped herself a couple of times while she was sleeping. The Duke was surprised that at the moment of the blow, everything was fine, but after waking up, she immediately began to hurt. He decided that he should just ignore this insidious woman until the potion arrived. When the master entered, he was very surprised because he saw the boy running away and the servants running after him. Liesel was surprised when she saw the boy. He immediately rushed into her arms. Lapel began to say that she was cruel and did not understand at all why she left him alone. Liesel felt very sorry for her. The butler noted that he was really attached to his mistress. But the gentleman said that he should not relax his vigilance until they found out the truth. If anyone noticed anything suspicious, he should immediately report it to him. The butler watched with a smile as the boy rejoiced in the lady's arms. The servant said that the lady could leave her luggage, but Ta was against it, and said that she would sort everything out herself. Liesel is so tired and wants to rest, but first she needs to calm the boy down. Liesel walked up to him and asked him why he was crying when she was already there. Lapel sat in tears and begged her not to throw him away, but the girl did not understand at all why she would do that. She just needed to go away on business. And the boy kept saying that if she left him there, he would be all alone. And then she started saying that he would have to return to the dump. Liesel felt ashamed about this, so she hugged him and asked him not to worry because she would never ever leave him alone. Lapel asked if she was being honest in her expressions, and the girl decided to promise him, and also asked him to wait a second, and then went to the gifts. Liesel asked Lapel to look faster. If she was going to leave it there, she wouldn't have bought him a present. But that's not all. So she asked Lapel to hold the ball for now. Liesel closed the curtains, but the boy didn't quite understand what she was doing because it was getting dark. The lady just wanted to show him something. She asked Lapel to watch carefully. When she pressed the button, the magic ball immediately began to sparkle, and the entire room was covered with stars. These are real twinkling stars. The boy was just delighted that this was for him. Liesel noted that they were all now Lapel's stars, and this was Lapel's house. Therefore, no one will drive him away. The boy was very happy and pressed himself against Liesel. They will break up very soon, but despite this, she gave him a promise that she will not be able to keep, so she really wants to apologize. It turns out that the woman who took the boy is now in the Duke's mansion. The masked man asked if they were sure it was the same boy. The servants reported that he had black hair and red eyes. This woman is the Baron's daughter, Liesel Frozen. The masked man asked if this was the vain girl they were talking about, and then he asked the service if this was all they had got, and the man with a sigh said that this was all. The man was simply furious because he had given them so much time, and they had found out so little that he would have learned more from gossip. After that, he quickly called Hazen and ordered him to get rid of the trash. They begged for mercy, but no one listened to them, and then the gentleman took off his mask. Hazen asked what he would do now. The gentleman said that they would start with the magic sphere. Roan noted that from what they had already learned, the accident was clearly not an accident. And the target was Leon himself. Chester hit the table and couldn't understand who dared to do such a thing. And then he asked what was on the list of suspects. They have problems with that for now. The family has too many enemies. It would be good if they had the testimony of the only surviving Lapel. The butler had no idea where his master was going. Chester said he needed to see the knight's commander. Roan was surprised with you that he would go personally and then asked him to wait here because he might call him. But the gentleman wants to get some fresh air, and he also asked the butler to bring Warden. Perhaps someone holds a grudge against him, but he doesn't remember having enemies. Chester needs to find the culprit to find out the whole truth. Where tomorrow he heard the servants talking, when the maid asked the second if she was afraid of the Duke, and she thought that she was asking this because of rumors. They say he could have killed his older brother to get his title, and probably, but still the mere thought of such a possibility gives me goosebumps. Another maid told them to be quiet because even the walls have ears. Sudden death by accident. Everyone assumed his brother did it for the sake of the title of Duke. Everyone was shocked because killing a brother from the title is a real mockery. Such a hypocrite when it comes to power. He needs a criminal to clear his name of this fratricide. The commander noticed that the gentleman had come so suddenly, so he assumed that something had happened. Chester ordered him to immediately assemble a reconnaissance detachment of the best knights. The commander asked what he would need to look for, but the gentleman silently handed him the sheet. When the commander read it, he couldn't believe that it could be true. His task is to find out what is written on the piece of paper. The knight said that this would be done. The master noted that Warden was just in time, so he asked the commander to take her with him. The gentleman asked Warden to help him a little. It seems it won't be easy. The Duke noted that since everything was set up, the culprit had to be found, and he hoped that they would come with good news. Chester wanted that too. After that, he said that the butler could go because he needed to be alone. The Duke sat down on a bench and looked at the sky. The pent-up anger was eating him up from the inside. But the rustling of leaves was still a little calming, so he decided to rest here for a while. Suddenly he heard the boy's voice and began to believe that they were playing nearby, but he wanted to sit in silence. It's noisy, so we have to go somewhere else. Meanwhile, the lady and the boy were playing with the ball. Liesel was very surprised when she saw the gentleman there. She apologized for disturbing him. She said that the boy simply misjudged his strength, and that's why the ball flew all the way here. She doesn't understand what that expression is about. Chester calmly passed the ball, and she again saw the same wound he had received because of her, and noticed that he hadn't even treated it. This worries her a little, so she decides to ask if he treated the wound. Liesel pointed out that if he didn't do this, he might get tetanus. The Duke did not understand at all what it was since she was so angry and serious. But he said it didn't matter and he'd take care of it later, but Liesel said he had to work on it in front of her. If he gets sick, she will feel guilty. The gentleman continued to say that everything is fine. Liesel turned to the maid and asked her to leave lapel with Kay and bring the first aid kit herself. The Duke noticed that she began giving orders very quickly. He needed to get away quickly. Liesel noticed that the Duke was so petty that he couldn't stand her for even 5 minutes. Chester decided to ask her why she thought that Liesel was glad that it wasn't true. The girl would feel guilty about the scar, not to mention the illnesses. She doesn't want to sit here, but she needs to make sure he disinfects everything. The maid brought the first aid kit and the mistress was very grateful, and then she noted that since it was already here, she could not be lazy and treat the wound. Chester had noticed that she was a restless woman. Liesel hoped he didn't think she would baffle him, and here he is sitting in front of her like a good boy, so she is glad that he has this trait too. If he doesn't want her help, then he should take care of it himself. They don't need tetanus here. Lapel was already tired of waiting for Liesel, so it was time for her to go. The Duke was in complete shock. And then he turned red and realized that he had made a mistake. But not just a mistake, but a huge mistake. Liesel asked Lapel if he was ready for bed. The boy noted that he had already put on his pajamas. The girl praised him and said that then they should wrap themselves in a blanket. Liesel wished him good night, and Lapel smiled and said that he wished her the same. By the way, Lapel decided to ask when they would return. Liesel was surprised and asked where they should return to. The boy said he meant the house and asked again when they would return. Liesel noted that this was his home, but Lapel wanted to go back to his grandparents. Liesel agreed, but only if he would eat well, play, and grow. Liesel didn't understand what was wrong with the boy and thought that you had bad taste, and that was why the boy was so sad. The 5-year-old child sighs right in front of her nose. If she said that they would soon return home, then he would be in a good mood again, but you can't lie to him all the time. Liesel didn't understand at all what to do because she herself was afraid of an imminent separation. She needed to distract him with something, so she asked if he wanted them to take a walk around the city. It will be something like a tour because there are a lot of interesting things in the city, and they will be able to go to a store with sweets and toys. The boy was very happy and they decided to get ready quickly. Well, they had to get his permission first. Liesel went to Chester's office. She thought he would forbid it, saying it could be dangerous. Even when they just take a walk in the garden, they are accompanied by Kay and Tia. Sometimes she feels people looking at her. Probably Kay is not for me alone, but with company. Liesel is already tired. I'm just trying to figure out how to ask for time off so they can let me in. In the corridor, the butler met her and asked the lady if she had any business with Chester. Or maybe she was afraid to disturb. If that's the case, then she doesn't have to worry. She decided to tell and then see, so she told the butler that she would be coming in. Chester said he would never allow that Liesel knew he was a stubborn ass. Sasha. She decided to ask him to think again because she couldn't just give up after all she had promised the child. It is very important to actively explore the world at such a young age, but the Duke said that if there are no important things to do, then they should stay at home. Liesel noticed the bandage on his hand and noted that he had bandaged his hand after all. Roan was surprised that his master was wounded, and Liesel noticed that he had torn the skin off his arm. Chester said it was just a scratch, and he was afraid of getting tetanus or something else, so he treated the wound. The butler asked what tetanus was, but the gentleman said that he himself did not know and that he had better get down to business. And he blushed so much, if you remember well. Then when she brought him the first aid kit, he was so embarrassed. Liesel turned to Roan and asked what was typical of their Duke. Chester was simply horrified. When she took his hand, she didn't even know if it was his nobility. Meanwhile, the man was in complete shock and said that she was going to take a walk around the city. The lady noted that he had said that it was dangerous, but if there were several accompanying persons, everything would go smoothly, so he allowed it. Liesel was very grateful to him and said that she would be on her way. The Duke realized that she had decided to embarrass him in front of the butler because he had refused her. She was definitely a fraud. Lapel was simply delighted. The lady asked him not to run so far. The boy even called her mom and asked her to look at how many toys there were. And all the toys are so beautiful, Lapel said what he wanted. Liesel thought they were just going for a walk, and she didn't even know that this boy was such a spendthrift. She only has 1,000 shillings and has already started thinking about selling her necklace. The girl offered the boy something sweet and he didn't refuse. Liesel was happy because everything worked out without much financial expense. There was a thief behind her and Lady was screaming to catch him. Lapel was in complete shock. Liesel noticed the thief. The knight asked her to stand behind, and another knight noted that he was coming here if they were now treading the pavement with his face. He was so fast that the knights didn't even have time to catch him. Meanwhile, the lady was very upset. The guard said that he would go and see her condition, but in the meantime, the lady should stand next to the other knight. It seems that his first concern should be Lapel's safety, but he asked if she was okay and said that his friends would bring her purse now so she should not despair. Lapel told Liesel that he himself would protect her. She just had to stand behind him. At that very moment, the thief was behind them. Liesel wanted there to be no cliché and he ran in the other direction. The lady grabbed the boy in her arms and called the knight, who instantly tripped the man and he fell. Liesel hoped that this wasn't some kind of law of the time travelers because he couldn't just fall in front of them because Lapel was the main character. Lapel turned to Liesel. You noticed that there was a bag there or something, but the girl told him not to touch anything and went up to her. Kay asked his partner why he caught up with him, but he said that he was so fast that he realized he had no chance and turned back. We were very grateful, but Liesel said it was just a coincidence. However, it did help to get her bag back, after which she snatched the bag from the child's hands. Liesel thought she could have done it more carefully because she almost tore her boy's arms off because of the unfortunate bag. The woman decided to offer the lady some jewelry. She said it was her gratitude and she insisted that Liesel take it. The woman was grateful for the help and said that she really wanted her to wear it for health and run away immediately. The necklace seems expensive. It's all somehow suspicious because she's not sure that all aristocrats carry a spare pair of diamonds in their handbags for emergencies. Even that thief somehow stupidly stumbled, and the woman thanked not the knight who tried to help her somehow, but her... Maybe it's cursed, she decided to push it on her. Lapel suggested that Liesel go the other way because something interesting was happening there. Everything here is so shiny, Liesel was thinking about whether to sell this necklace or leave it. It was very difficult for me to resist my natural greed. Lapel was simply delighted because he saw a real star. The seller said that this was the last music box and he would sell it for only 1,000 shillings. Liesel noted that it would be very difficult for a beggar with a child in her arms. Her heart would break with every refusal. Lapel and what she asked her if he could have it. She decided to sell the necklace. The buyer said that the diamonds were fake, but he could buy it, but the fee would be small. She even felt sad that it was fake. At least they can live in luxury now because 2,000 just for a beautiful design is already not bad. Lapel asked her why she is so happy. The lady said that they will buy him a star and that is why she is happy. And also they need to spend all the money. So she asked for a moment of attention. She ordered that everyone be given drinks at her expense. Everyone was very happy and money really does get you drunk. The masked man was absolutely horrified and threw his glass at the servants because she sold that necklace. They were apologizing because they didn't think it would turn out like this. The man yelled at them to shut up because they don't even know how rare the magic stone set into the necklace was. They had to return it immediately, and the man began to run out of the room in a hurry. That he doesn't even understand how crazy you have to be to sell such a thing right away and even spend the money so thoughtlessly. She had to wear it, and he had met all the beauty standards for this season. His servant asked if he should arrange everything himself. Beliv asked again. Afterwards, his servant remarked that he thought they should take care of using the stone themselves rather than wait for this girl to put it on. All they need to do now is watch the house. The gentleman agreed with him. Because who knows what she'll do with the stone next time? The servant agreed her actions are quite difficult to predict. After this, the master decided to send his servant, and he asked him to happily await good news from him. Liesel was feeding the boy in the garden. The servant informed the master that so far nothing strange had been noticed about her. She takes care of the child, and of course there is no hint of violence here. Roan also reported that a small incident had occurred a few days ago, and she had asked the servants to put Lapel's interests above their own in the future. And something else interesting was discovered during the inspection of the Baron. The Duke wanted him to get to the point. Shortly before his arrival, the lady had sold all her luxurious dresses and accessories to help the Baron pay off his debts. And the butler is not sure that a vulgar girl and gossip can do something like that. Perhaps she has changed. Chester remarked that he was so trusting, he should believe him that people don't just change for no reason. But the servant wanted the master to think about his words. There is a possibility that the rumors are greatly exaggerated. Even the most obvious lie can seem true if many people repeat it day after day. Chester looked again at the girl and the boy in the garden and said that it was too early to draw conclusions and that they couldn't take their eyes off her. Roan knew that no matter how long he looked, he would still see nothing. She was a new kind of star, a sun without spots. The master did not understand why his servant was staring there, and he said that he was already on his way. Liesel was playing hide-and-seek with a boy and shouted that whoever didn't hide was not her fault. She thought he was such a sweet boy because just look at his tiny sweet feet. She demonstratively pretended that she didn't know where the boy had gone and that she didn't see him anywhere. It seemed that he had run in the other direction. She knew she had to teach him how to hide properly in case he wanted to irritate their duke. Liesel said she would look that way now, and then they would look under the chair. Lapel knew he couldn't let that happen, because then Liesel would win again. So the boy decided that he would definitely win this time. Liesel decided to give him a head start and count to 100. Lapel understood that he had to run faster, but he had no idea where he could hide. Roan turned to the boy and asked him if he was in a hurry to do something important. Lapel was very happy when he saw the butler and asked him to hide him. Roan realized that he was playing hide-and-seek with Liesel. She is a hide monster, so the butler has to help him. Roan understood him and said that they would definitely come up with something now. Maybe he could just carry him in his arms. Liesel was short and might not even notice him, but the boy thought that it wouldn't work. Then they'd probably better go to the living room or the library, or maybe they could go full speed ahead. Lapel had a hard time deciding, but he quickly said they should go full speed ahead. And then the boy realized that he needed to be quieter, because Liesel would come. Liesel noticed that it was almost too quiet. The butler did everything as he asked. The cook shouted at him not to run because he might fall since he had just mopped the floors. Roan yelled at Lapel to listen to Molds because he might get hurt. Lapel shouted that he didn't want to because he had just beaten Liesel in hide-and-seek. Meanwhile, the men tried to catch up with him, but they slipped. Roan didn't understand why he decided to wash the floors now. The butler had fallen very hard. Lapel drew attention to him, but the gentleman said that he need not worry because he was completely fine. Molds told the gentleman to be careful because there was flour there, but it was too late. Lapel was very happy because it was very beautiful summer snow. Afterwards, they started playing with the little gentleman, and Liesel had no idea where he could have disappeared to. Because she definitely heard his voice from here, but he's not in the living room, so it's difficult. She thought that maybe he was in the library. She had to look for him silently. Otherwise, he hid so well he even outdid the teacher. The library is just huge, so it is very difficult for her. But suddenly she noticed the key to her successful and happy life. The Duke was reading a book. Meanwhile, Liesel thought that he was a man to all men if he could carry such a ladder himself. If she had one, she would have hired a separate person to move it. There would have been a new profession in the Middle Ages, a ladder mover. But what wouldn't you do for something like that? It's fate, so she asks him to continue showing the way to her wayward newcomer. Here it is, the key to a happy life of a strong and independent woman. The book is called How to Turn 1,000 into 10 billion shillings. Given the characters of the Helos brothers, it is unlikely that they would have bought a useless book. Now it will be possible to increase capital. Liesel decided to pay off her debts, and the remaining 20 million that the Duke would give her would increase many times over, and then she would live a life of her own. But suddenly the lady began to fall. But surprisingly, it was not painful for her and even pleasant. She felt like she was in someone's arms, and then she realized that Chester had caught her. He was so handsome, like a sculpture, and for some reason her heart skipped a beat. This is crazy. She has a clouded mind. It's much easier to look at a 2D guy and reason rationally when she's in her world and he's in his. So the lady began to apologize and asked him to let her go. She needs to act as if she's ashamed and let her head drop. Probably otherwise she'll look impudent. He looks down at her in such a veiled way as if he were examining his hand. And you irritate her so much he interferes even when she is busy with important things. After that, she apologized for looking in here without permission. She just thought the boy was hiding there. Chester pointed out that he hadn't come in here. Liesel quickly put the book down and began to leave, saying goodbye to him at the door. Chester noticed that she couldn't lie like that. She was in his head when she fell into his arms. Because of this, the man did not understand why he remembered her face and decided to see what kind of book she was holding to her chest. When he saw what kind of book it was, you realized that this was some kind of nonsense, not a book on investing. You had to throw it out immediately after reading a couple of paragraphs. Chester hoped she wasn't acting like that because she was reading that book, because he couldn't believe that he even thought that you could become a billionaire just by reading this book. Liesl was so embarrassed because he was hugging her, and even her heartbeat quickened. But she doesn't understand why this happened because he is absolutely unbearable. Lapel's laughter, but this was the kitchen and she hoped he wasn't alone there. Liesl went into the kitchen and said that she found it, and then she was very surprised and asked the butler if everything was okay. Lapel called her to play with them. The lady was grateful that they were with him all this time and noted that she saw that they also got it in this battle with flour. She apologized for it, but they didn't mind because they were happy themselves. Lapel is such a mischievous boy, he played with flour and immediately went to bed. Liesl can't even be mad at him because he's so sweet. The cat listened to the knights talking about who would be the first to enter. Kay is so tired, you need to go to bed quickly. He heard a strange crunch in the bushes. And when he turned around, he saw a very cute cat there. He apologized, but she can't be there, so he decided to find her owner. After a huge burst of light, the cat possessed the knight with the help of magic. Chester was in such a hurry that even his butler couldn't keep up with him. He quickly called Shane. He was surprised with you that the gentleman decided to meet them personally. Roan noted that he was so eager to hear the report, that's why he came here. The Duke immediately asked what it was, and he had to get to the point right away. Shane said he was sorry they had looked very carefully all the way from Bern to the capital, but had found nothing. So he apologizes. Chester points out that they've worked hard and can rest. Shane informed the gentleman that it would be better to expand the search area because they could move out right away. Well, the gentleman said that they should rest because they will need strength for further searches, so for now they should be patient and rest properly. Shane understood and said that as soon as the need arose, the master should call them. Roan noted that the killer must have planned everything carefully, since he could not find any clues. Chester thought so too. They would need time and effort to solve this puzzle, and also the gentleman was happy when he saw Warden. The servant said that he would return him to the kennel. But the master began to hug the dog and say that there was no need to do this. This little one has worked hard. You can't just shove him in right away, so the gentleman will walk with him for a bit. Chester ordered Roan to arrange some kind of delicacy for the dogs. The knight called Kay and told him that they needed to patrol the house. He thought they were looking after the guests today, but plans have changed and they have to hurry. The gentleman noted that he saw that his pet enjoyed walking. Chester also apologized for having to stay indoors. They have guests here, and he might scare them, so he must wait a little longer until the identity of this boy is established. He remembered Leon asking Chester if he could handle Dobermans because they were such a large breed. But his attempts were thorough. Now he is a little busy, so they will walk later. If this guy is really Lapel, he will introduce them to each other, and he will be very happy if he finds out that he has become friends with his son. Chester offered the dog something to eat and asked him to sit still, and he would come soon. He hopes the dog won't be too upset that he's locking him in again. He noticed a woman having lunch with a child, and she treated him very well and praised him for eating carrots. And you are so unusual because it is always very quiet here. If he ever has a family, then probably everything will look like this too. The gentleman felt that he was out of place here, so it was time for him to go. Liesl decided to ask his lordship if he had eaten yet. Chester admitted that he hadn't yet. Liesl understood, but she didn't understand why he looked so worried. After this, the chef presented the final dessert, and the boy was very happy about it. Since he had already been noticed, there was no point in trying to escape from here quickly. The cook was glad to see his master. Roan told him that the Duke needed raw chicken, and he had already prepared it. She asked for a minute. Liesl was surprised, but realized that if she had such tastes, she would be worried too. Chester didn't understand what that sly look was about, and he hinted that they should leave to enjoy their chicken in peace, so they would be leaving already. Chester noticed that she hadn't even eaten because she was feeding the baby. So he said that he had suddenly dropped in and was asking her to finish her meal. Liesl said that she was already full. It would be better for him to sit here and enjoy the food. Chester said he would take the jacket with him. Liesl returned and called out to him. after which she said that it was better not to eat raw meat, and this made the gentleman very surprised. It's not far from poisoning, but he needs to be healthy to look after Lapel. The Duke had no idea what she was talking about. Liesel said that it was better to cook this chicken, boil it, or fry it. You can also stew it, but just don't eat it raw. But she doesn't blame him, if anything, and she wished him a pleasant appetite. Chester didn't want to believe that she thought he asked for raw chicken for himself. This made the gentleman laugh. He noted that you won't get bored with her the more you get to know her, the more interesting it is. It simply cannot be so, but it is true, and he saw it with his own eyes. The guy said that he must have mixed something up. The butler came to them and asked if the list of dishes for the week had been approved. Roan didn't understand what kind of atmosphere this was at all and thought that something was wrong. The chef wanted to tease the cook by saying that he saw the Duke laughing. The butler noted that this sometimes happens. The Duke fortunately knows how to smile, but he did not just smile. He needed the ordered chicken for the dog, and he gave him this chicken. And then from the dining room came the sounds of laughter. His lordship was laughing. And the chef saw it because he came back to look and make sure it was definitely him. Roan asked if the laughter was really loud. It was the first time the chef had seen such a thing since he took the job. He thought that the palace who also does not believe in it, and the chef probably is mistaken, but he said that he will beat him if he does not understand humanly. It's hard to believe he doesn't even know what could have caused the Dukes to laugh. Now the atmosphere at home has become somehow lighter, and perhaps this affects the Duke. Liesel had no idea where the kid was running and told him that he might trip. Lapel told her not to worry, it was better to hurry. He's always so energetic, and after eating it's hard to keep up with kids her age. Lapel fell. The girl said it was okay, but the boy started rolling on the floor. Liesel immediately ran up to him and asked if he was hurt or had any scratches, but the boy said that everything was fine and even stood up himself. They had just recently bathed and combed their hair, and now he is dirty again and there are blades of grass stuck in his hair. It is true that every day of a parent is Egyptian work, and she asked him if it was fun. The boy told her that he wanted to continue playing. The girl asked him to be careful and not to get hurt. The main thing is his happiness. But he shouldn't run too far. Lapel is such a fidget. Suddenly she heard the boy calling her and in tears. When Liesel ran up to him, she saw that there was a huge dog in front of him. The boy was very afraid and cried. Liesel asked him to stay put and everything would be fine. She would slowly approach him, but she couldn't move. If the dog suddenly attacks, it will be the end for the boy, so she doesn't understand at all what to do. The dog wanted to sniff the boy, but he started screaming at him not to come near him. Liesel asked him to calm down, but the dog was downright wild. Liesel ran up to him and grabbed him in her arms, thereby saving him from the dog. After which, the Duke approached them and told Warden to stop and quickly leave from there. The Duke practically ran to them and asked the lady in horror if they were okay. Chester apologized because he didn't notice that they came out here. Liesel asked Lapel how he was. She asked him not to cry because everything was fine now. Suddenly the lady closed her eyes and the boy asked in horror what was wrong with her. It was because of the stress that had piled up, her nerves were acting up and she had no strength. Liesel's whole body is a mess, but she wants to know if the boy is okay. The Duke ran up to her and asked if she was okay. The lady had no idea when she would stop getting into an awkward situation right in front of his nose. Liesel stood up and asked the boy not to cry. I also asked if he was in any pain. Liesel asked the gentleman if he had heard that the boy was not injured, so he should not worry. Chester looked embarrassed, but repeated that he had asked how she was not the boy. Liesel noticed that he was angry again and didn't understand why I liked him so much that time. If someone had seen such an expression on her face, they would have thought that she had pushed him away, and he was lying there unhappy, exhausted, and angry. Roan ran towards his master and noticed that he was screaming so loudly, so he wondered what happened. Suddenly he saw the lady and there told him that she had just fallen. But the butler did not understand how this could happen, and then he asked if she was okay, and the Duke asked if she could get up. There are some problems with this because she can't feel her legs. Apparently her body still hasn't recovered from the shock. There will be problems, and she doesn't think she can get up on her own. Lapel was worried because she was hurt. Roan decided to ask what had happened. Liesel noticed that the gentleman's eye twitched. She was the victim, so she wasn't angry. Liesel said that she thought her body was a little in shock. That's why her legs were so heavy, and she also asked the boy not to cry because she would rest and be as fit as a fiddle. The gentleman asked the butler to take the child and bring him to the estate, but Lapel asked him to let him go because he wanted to go with the girl. Roan said that everything was fine, and that the master would help the lady get up. Liesel gave him the key to stop because she would have lain down on the grass and would have gotten up on her own, so there was no need to carry her in your arms. Chester ordered the butler to bring the doctor to the ladies' room immediately. She said she was fine, but he decided to carry her in his arms, and that was quite interesting for a butler. The doctor checked her legs and she was in a lot of pain. The gentleman thought it was serious, but the doctor assured him that there was no need to worry. The bone is fine, just a slight sprain, and for now you just need to apply ice and not put any weight on the leg and it will get better soon. If that's all they can go. The doctor said goodbye and started to leave the room. The Duke remained in the room with her, and this surprised her because it was addressed first and foremost to him. She sat on him, fell right into his arms, rode on his hands. She does not understand at all why he is always nearby when she and Mr. Oblomov shake hands. Because of all this, she had already been in his arms twice and felt his hard chest at her side, and it was very awkward that they were staring at them in the hallway so much that she would die of shame. She really wanted him to put her alone because his face constantly reminded her of those shameful embraces. Chester turned to Liesel and apologized, but the lady did not understand what it was and why he was talking to her. The Duke had to keep the dog on a leash and was not to risk the safety of his guests. He was very sorry now the lady knew the name of this monster and did not understand at all why he got such a frightening dog. Liesel still said that everything turned out okay, so he didn't have to worry so much anymore. This situation is simply a result of circumstances, and the dog only wanted to protect the house. The Duke promised to give her compensation. She only had to say how much she wanted. Liesel asked if he could buy her a house. The Duke asked in a serious tone in which area the house owed her. And then he asked how many rooms it had and with or without a garden, but the lady asked him to stop because it was just a joke. The girl believed that she had found herself in a fairy tale. Perhaps he had already become a billionaire thanks to that book. His face promises to fulfill any of her wishes this very second, but she cannot offend men, so she told him to introduce her to a dog sometime. Chester was surprised, and the lady remarked that she wanted him to apologize in person. The Duke was surprised with you that this was all. The lady noted that this would be more than enough. When he came out, the butler asked how the miss was, and the gentleman said that she simply couldn't walk for a long time, for several days. Roan was very glad that everything worked out, but the boy screamed that he wanted to go to her and asked to be let go. Chester picked up the boy and told him not to worry because she would get better soon. And that's true, but for that, he needs to be quiet so she can rest, and when she wakes up, he needs to protect her and not let her walk around too much. Chester asked if he could trust him with such an important mission. Lapel said that he could rely on him and that he would cope and protect Liesel. After that, the boy ran away somewhere. The clippings noticed that he looked a bit shabby, and it seemed that he had no time for it because of Miss. Rowan noticed that his master was so worried about her, and he never expected this from Sir Chester. The gentleman was surprised and thought about it himself, and then she remembered how he asked her if she was wounded. And then he ordered that a doctor be brought immediately and carried her away in his arms. Chester ordered Roan to get him this potion as soon as possible by any means necessary. He doesn't know what kind of feeling he recently experienced, but he has doubts about his judgments about her, and if his guesses are correct, then the misunderstandings between them will need to be resolved as soon as possible. In the kitchen, the servants talked about how she was lying on the grass with a child in her arms, and could not believe it because this boy was real. Well, it looks like that. Otherwise, why would she rush to save him? She even got hurt herself and is now lying in the room. But it would be more logical to run away from such a big dog as a Doberman, especially since he is her son to me. Regina said that she was sure that she was a hypocrite and thought that she wanted to seduce the Duke using the boy as an excuse. They should think for themselves. Not a single noblewoman would go to a landfill looking for a boy. And she couldn't find him somewhere completely by accident because the Duke's search party searched everything. The cook suggested that this was indeed the case, and the maids also noted that it was a bit strange, but it seemed to be true. Regina suggested waiting until the potion was delivered, then they would see who's got it. The head maid asked her why they were all crowded together because they had a lot of work to do and they were not working. They told the head maid that they were already working. Regina had finished everything she had been assigned, so she asked to take a short break. The maid said that of course she could rest because she had tried hard. she decided to go. The cook decided to get back to business because he was assigned a couple more things and he completely forgot about them. Deep dishes. And this means that the first course will be soup. It is necessary to monitor the nutrition when visiting and diversify the diet. Regina offered to help with the soup. The cook didn't quite understand what was wrong with her face, but he didn't mind. Liesel decided to put her claws into her man, but Regina does not agree to this and will take revenge. Lapel said no way, and then the lady said she was very thirsty. But the boy did not allow her to get up, because if she got up, her leg would not heal. It was better for her not to move, and he himself would bring her something to drink. Lapel promised not to spill a drop because Liesel needed water. It would be much faster and easier in theory, she herself. When he gave her the water, the lady was very grateful, but the boy did not want to accept the gratitude and asked her to drink because he would get better faster. The girl wanted to tell him that her hands were fine and she was not paralyzed, but he decided to give her a drink from his hands. Liesel was very grateful to him and remarked that she thought she would get better faster now, and Lapel was very happy because that was very good. Lapel asked her never to get sick again, and the lady promised that she would not. This baby smell intoxicates her so much, she would love to spend the rest of her life like this. Well, there are only a few days left before their separation. She needs to stop dreaming about something that won't come true. It seems like it will be very hard for her without him because he is her little hero. Lapel said that he would protect her. She just didn't need to leave and be around him more. Liesel didn't understand at all how she would cope without this sweet little pie at her side. She will miss her very much, and she thinks that she will also miss Tia very much. She has already become like family to her. And also about Roan and Kay, and about the Duke, of course. But she wondered why the Duke was on this list. He's a nice guy, of course, but she won't miss him, that's for sure. And he's also hard to understand. She was in pain, and his first impulse was to get angry with her. Lapel told her that she had wrinkles. Tia came and informed the lady that she had brought food. She provided food for the boy and for the lady. Lapel asked Liesel why she even got up because he would have fed her himself. She apologized, but she was already feeling better, so she offered him something to eat. She had to eat it all quickly before he started insisting on feeding her, and from the baby's hands. She believed that this soup was made in the proportions of 1 pound of salt to 1 liter of water. Lapel's face didn't change. Perhaps someone accidentally dropped some salt into her dish. She thought that people had never died from this before, so she decided to eat this soup. Hazen was supposed to report the situation through his magic ruby. He looks like the baby of the family, but he's not entirely sure yet. The potion hasn't been delivered to the mansion yet. The gentleman said that he should then continue to observe and say if there was anything important. Tia asked the lady what was wrong because the lady was looking at the sky for a long time. The lady said that it was nothing special, she just hadn't looked at the sky for a long time, so she couldn't help but admire it. Tia was surprised because the view from the window was wonderful, but she meant decomposition. What she saw I will be in the room is not the real sky. She must have been very sad there. She had a reliable guard who didn't allow her to lift a finger. Liesel didn't understand at all that the Duke could doubt that they were related because they behaved similarly. Tia is glad that she recovered quickly. It was just a sprain, that's why. Liesel was pleased that everything was healing quickly on her, just wonderful. It feels so good to expose her face to the light breeze after so many days of confinement. It had become suddenly colder, and the lady thought she had dressed too lightly, so she suggested that the boy go inside. But Lapel said it was warm. Tia said that if she was cold, she could bring a cape. Liesel assured her that it was not necessary because she would go and get it herself and everything was fine. It was good for me to move more now. Lapel that he could play with the maid for now. When she took the oath, she felt so warm and soft. She decided to take something for the boy, just in case. This staircase seemed too wide to her in the first days, but she even got used to it. It feels like this is her home. She needs to hurry because hers has probably already been created. These little pranks, no matter whose they are, will not spoil her wonderful mood. Well, tomorrow she met the gentleman and he remarked that he heard that she felt better. Liesel confirmed this and believed that he had decided to take a walk. The gentleman confirmed this. Liesel was very happy because she saw the Duke's dog near him whom she wanted to meet. Chester asked her to wait because he had prepared something for her. The dog brought her a flower and put it next to her. The lady was very grateful to the dog. and then she asked the Duke if she could pet him. Chester allowed it, but she had to approach slowly. The lady was sure that everything would be fine. The dog looked like a well-behaved boy, but there is no such thing as too much caution. Liesl was grateful for his trust and suggested that they forget about the incident and become friends. Even the Doberman gave her a flower. Not everyone can boast of that, but of course the dog would not have thought of such a thing. Therefore, most likely the Duke had rehearsed this with him, and so she did not understand at all why he needed it, because a simple apology would have been enough. The lady didn't think that he could be such a romantic, it seemed to her, or something really changed in his gaze. Chester's gaze softened, and then the Duke said that if she had anything to say, Liesl immediately said that she wanted to thank him. The girl remembered that he was thick-skinned, and she shouldn't have stared, because he might still think of something. The lady noted that he could continue his walk, but she was already leaving. Chester asked the dog what was wrong. He assumed he was upset because Lady had left them. Or the gentleman himself became sad. He remembered the picture of the lady sitting sweetly with the dog. Liesl fed Lapel and also praised him. The boy needs to eat well. Lapel asked if he could not finish the carrot this time, but if he gives it, then she will give him a piece of pie. The boy asked for some pie first. Liesl thought he must have gotten up on the wrong side of the bed. He is a good boy, so he must eat. The cook saw the Duke standing behind the wall and noted that he was early today, and also asked if it was necessary to set the table for him. The cook wanted to say the Duke's favorite dish, but he said that it was not necessary. Because he was just passing by, Liesl was surprised and asked the cook if the Duke had left. Mold said the Duke had told him he was just passing by, but he had been standing there so long that he decided to ask him about breakfast. Perhaps he was embarrassed to come in because of them. Liesl was surprised that he couldn't come in because of her, so she wondered why. She doesn't think so. He's definitely following her like a shadow, and she probably seems blind to him. Tia noticed that Lady was sighing very heavily, so she asked if something was bothering her. Liesl said yes and no, and asked her to take a discreet look behind her. The maid was surprised because she saw the Duke there. She did not quite understand why he was hiding. Liesl noticed that he seemed to have decided to devote all his time to observing her. But Tia didn't understand why he needed it. He probably still thought she was a fraud, and he thinks she is capable of child abuse. But Tia said that there were many favors, and he would have sent them for something like that. But this answer surprised the lady. You Summer, the maid, is not sure that anyone would do that to the police. Liesl agreed with her and also asked what other reason he could have. Tia thought that maybe he had something to say, but for some reason he hesitated for a long time, and he could have said it, and that would have been the end of it. It must be some kind of favor he's embarrassed to ask for. Or maybe he just wanted to be closer to the boy. Liesl realized that this could very well be true. Maybe she should put her doubts aside and ask him directly. The Duke had no idea what he was doing. Suddenly, the butler came up to him and asked if he wanted to play with him. Chester noted that he needed to be given more work to do to stop him hanging around doing nothing and scaring people like that. Roan just saw the gentleman standing there and looking towards Miss Liesl. Chester said Dima wasn't making it up. He just decided to translate it into two, and the Duke blushed. Chester also added that he was currently taking a walk. If he didn't want to say something important, he could go. When the Duke opened his eyes, he saw Mrs. Liesl in front of him. It would have been better if he had stood behind the tree. Liesl asked the gentleman if he wanted to play with them. The gentleman tried to calm down and firmly stated that he had no such desire. Liesl decided to ask in that case why he was following her like a shadow, and asked again if he really didn't want to play with the boy. The Duke was surprised by her words and asked if he could now walk around his mansion since he could go wherever he wanted. He's a coward and a liar. She caught him red-handed, and he still objects to her. I wish I could shove the serum down his throat right now. Now she realized that he didn't want to play. Chester didn't understand what kind of tone that was, because it sounded like she had some kind of complaint. Liesl said that of course it wasn't, so his guest had simply forgotten his place a little. They continued to argue, but the butler stood between them and suggested that they calm down. Lapel approached the Duke and asked him to play with him. The Duke was very surprised the boy continued to ask him. Liesl asked Lapel to come to her because he was busy following them around, so he couldn't play with them. Still, the Duke took him in his arms and said that he would go and have fun with him. Liesl got very angry and asked Lisa if she had answered anything completely different a couple of minutes ago. Chester noted that this was the boy's wish. Still, it was excellent. No matter how you look at it, the Duke has changed a lot during this period. Lapel was very eager to show the Duke his treasure, so he brought him to his room. The boy asked him to go faster. The gentleman was surprised that he had not played enough yet. Chester had to go to work. Lapel was very upset and knew that this meant he didn't want to play with him anymore. The point is this: Liesel asked if everything was okay or if he didn't consider it his wish, so he agreed to play a little longer, poor Duke. This is far from the first time that he will not be able to refuse him, and he is not inferior to him in stubbornness. Only the methods are different. She will have to come in. She feels like the Duke's wife because of these circumstances. Lapel showed him the magic ball and said that it shined very cool. The Duke realized it was the same toy from the previous time Liesel noticed that the boy really liked the stars. Chester immediately remembered how his brother told him that his son really liked the stars, and when he looked at the night sky, he broke into a very cute and happy smile. Liesel noticed that he was deep in thought, again probably wondering if it was a real boy or not. If he finally accepted it so they could start getting closer, then she would feel better. The silence dragged on for a while. Perhaps the lady needed to intervene, so Liesel turned to his lordship. She noted that their Lapel is a very responsible and caring baby. He took care of her when she sprained her ligaments, and he is always reliable, and he also sings magically, and she is sure that he has never had the chance to hear him sing. The Duke agreed. The lady asked if he would sing for His Highness. Liesel was very happy because his little heart was about to receive a lethal dose of cuteness. No one can resist the charm of singing Lapel. The boy is like a diamond in the darkness of the night, and even the Duke smiled a little when he listened. Chester suddenly became very embarrassed because he didn't understand why her eyes lit up so suddenly. The girl noticed that he was rubbing his eyes while the boy was singing, and perhaps this was a hint of fatigue. She praised Lapel and asked His Highness how he liked the song. They were normal again, so Chester thought he was imagining things. Liesel didn't understand why he had such mood swings. She really wanted him to make a simpler face and praise Lapel because the boy was looking forward to it. Liesel turned to him 2 more times and asked if he would continue to remain silent. Chester only saw her smiling and her eyes shining, and he didn't understand at all what kind of trick this was from the eyes. He had to leave before he blurted out some nonsense, so he praised him with a very displeased face. And then he immediately ran away, and the boy was very upset because he thought that he was angry because he sang badly. Liesel assured him that this was not so. He simply had no ear for music, so he could not appreciate it at its true value. Just when she thought that he was already so bad for me, they witnessed another transformation into an asshole. The Duke could not believe it because he could not take his eyes off her, and she was so beautiful. It's probably all because of fatigue, and his eyes and brain are acting up, so he just needs to rest. Roan turned to His Highness and asked him what he was doing and if he was feeling well. The master remembered about training. It was necessary to study right now, so the Duke began to run away. The butler did not understand at all why he was behaving so suddenly. Roan shouted that it was impossible, and the master had to stop because things couldn't be postponed. Everything was idle for them. The servant informed Milady that they had arrived, and he also asked if she was sure that everything would be all right since they had arrived without warning. The lady was sure that everything would be fine. There was no place for these formalities between them, and there would never be. Casey told her brother that she was home and screamed for everyone to meet her. Well, damn, his lordship was busy right now. Casey was upset because he most likely didn't hear her. But Casey said that if the mountain won't come to Mohammed, Mohammed will go to the mountain. The servant wanted to say that in that case, Magomed should go outside because he was not here. Liesel was eating with Lapel. He ate everything, so today he has chocolate pudding for dessert. Casey could not find him in any way, and her mistress, the maid, and the boy heard her. Liesel was surprised and asked if they had a guest. The maid noted that the voice belonged to Lady Casey Rashash. Finally, she found them, but was very surprised when she saw the lady and the boy there. She burst in here and there were guests, so she apologizes. Tia greeted her and informed her that his lordship was probably in his office. Liesel thought about it and realized that she seemed to be like that in the novel, but she didn't understand what kind of person she was. Casey asked if this boy was Lapel. She was very glad that he had already been found. These red, bottomless eyes and black cop of fragrant hair, you can immediately see that this is a child of the Helos family. Lapel began to run towards Liesel and said that he was scared. Casey pointed out that it was her fault and apologized because she didn't mean to scare him. Liesel said that everything was fine and that she was not scary at all, so she did not understand at all what was wrong with the boy. Casey decided to ask the lady who she was to the boy and assumed that she was his nanny. She seems to remember her now. This is the only daughter of Count Rashash, Casey Rashash. The Count and the Duke were close friends, so their children grew up together almost from childhood. Therefore, she could allow herself to calmly call Chester brother. Well, she feels like she's being a little impulsive and tactless, as if she and the Duke really were blood relatives. Liesel is afraid for Lapel's life. I should leave him in the care of such a girl. She remarked that the lady was too beautiful and young to be a nanny. After such insight, Liesel decided to take back her words. Liesel greeted the lady and introduced herself properly. She had some unresolved business with the Duke, so she would be staying here for a while. Now Casey understood that this woman was the very extravagant queen, and then the girl immediately apologized because it was too impolite on her part. Liesel noted that she used to be like that, but that was in the past, and she didn't have to worry about her words. Casey's dad always says that her tongue is her enemy, so she apologizes. And also Cases called her Zelly. The lady was surprised and asked again. Cases noted that this is an abbreviation of her full name. They had just met, and she was already addressing her like that. After that, the boy repeated her words. But he said it wrong, and the Cases began to believe that he wanted jelly or marmalade. After that, she took out a gummy bear and told him to look at what his sister had. Liesel thought there that she simply had a magic bag. She would never believe that she was carrying such a large amount of marmalade in this small bag. If she thought that Liesel liked this bag, she was ready to give it to her right away. But the lady tried to say that this was not so. Casey said that it would contain anything she wanted, so it's a source of unlimited cash. Well, after that, Casey added that anything that doesn't bring financial gain will appear. Well, it's still a cool thing, so she can take it for herself. Introduced forgave her for her mistake, so now it's her gratitude. Liesel noticed that the singer liked her too, so she decided to accept her. The lady was very grateful to her, and Casey was very glad that she accepted her gift. Casey asked if it was really their boy Liesel believed it was. Well then, he hadn't passed the potion test yet. The girl thought that she was the one who brought him here, and Liesel confirmed it. She was immediately bombarded with questions and talked a lot, and then she noticed that even Chester couldn't find it. Again, it's wrong. He needs to pull himself together and control his movements. The Duke was very angry and was training very aggressively. Roan asked the master to calm down because the knights would think that he decided to take his anger out on them. Chester said, well, I don't mean anything like that. He just wants them to understand that there is room for improvement, and that is his concern. Roan said that if he didn't want to kill with such care, he should give them a break. The gentleman asked why Roan was here again and assumed that he was loafing around again, but the butler informed him that Lady Casey had arrived. Now they are talking with Lady Liesel. The gentleman was very surprised by his life and asked who she was talking to. He didn't understand at all why the hell he hadn't come to him earlier, and he should have moved much faster. Roan asked his lordship to wait for him. They are already in Liesel's room. The butler was shocked with you that he wanted to come in person. He asked you to wait for him in the drawing room because he could bring Lady Casey there. The gentleman noted that Roan knew her, and she would not agree to persuasion. But again, she said that it was politeness, and she believed that he was worried that the lady would blab something. Or perhaps he is ashamed of the revelation of his dark past to Lady Liesel. He usually doesn't care, but the gentleman said that if he plans to continue his bullying, he should not complain later about the amount of paperwork. It seems that the butler hit the nail on the head, and that was the whole reason for his haste. Casey remarked that she hadn't had this much fun in a long time. Liesel was having a lot of fun too. Casey offered to give her a quick test, and the girl agreed to it. Casey asked if she knew Chester's nickname. The lady was surprised and didn't even know what to say. She wondered what would describe him more accurately: a cool, handsome man or a jerk. Everything else that comes to mind contains swear words. Perhaps I shouldn't be so frank with her. So the lady said that she was certainly not sure, but Casey noted that she would definitely think of him if she heard that nickname. Casey whispered to her that he was a mouth that ruined everything. After that, they started laughing really loudly. If I noticed that it suits him very well, and he is ideal, the ride revealed. Liesel didn't even know when she had last had such fun, as if she had found a kindred spirit. Suddenly, someone knocked. It was the gentleman who asked if he could come in. Liesel let him in, and he apologized profusely for interrupting them, but was completely red. The lady said that he need not worry, but she did not understand what that expression was. Chester came to ask Casey what brought her here. The girl was very scared and called him brother and then His Highness. Liesel hoped he wasn't in the service as she laughed at his nickname. The Duke said that if she had anything to say, she could say it in the living room. Liesel thought they were talking too loudly. Casey agreed, and Chester asked again to ask him. The lady went out with them and said that they would see everything with her. Liesel said goodbye to her, and when they left, a boy immediately approached her. Lapel asked her why her uncle had not greeted him and believed that he had stopped loving him. Liesel denied it and said that it couldn't be. She thought he heard what they were laughing about, although she had nothing to worry about. She wasn't the one who gave him that nickname. It would be very rude to ignore a child. After all, he is a complete idiot. Casey noted that he asked why she was there, but it was obviously because her dad said so. Chester asked her if she had said anything that she would later regret. If she noticed that, of course not, and did not understand why she would discuss something personal with someone and they did not even remember him, she was not even going to regret it. The gentleman came that she had something exactly, and told so he was very long on her. Oh, the girl noticed that if she does not regret, then it does not count. She also asked if the boy had been found. She needed to quickly change the subject before he started helping out. Chester said he didn't know for sure because the potion hadn't been delivered yet. Pension noted that Liesel said that she would never do such a thing. The boy simply lost his memory from shock. But the gentleman believed that it was better to be safe than sorry. Casey said that this girl could be trusted. She hurt her a little, but she forgave her, and then listened to her. These were the sounds of active female solidarity. Inflammation did not understand at all why she called her that, because these women have known each other for only 5 minutes but are already on each other's side. That's why Casey wants him to believe her she's also a beauty. Chester said he knows that himself. Suddenly, Casey yelled at him about what he had said. He had agreed that she was beautiful, but the gentleman said that this did not happen. Casey apologized for what she heard. Chester almost got caught, and it was bad because his symptoms were getting worse. And just recently, she also shone so brightly that he had to retreat immediately. The Duke thought that perhaps it was some kind of mental illness. You can't joke with someone like that, and he needs to see a doctor. He'll find out if he has any mental disorders. Lapel was very happy with the hair because he had countless toys and treats. Liesel was surprised that he liked her so much, and the boy said that she was very cool and also a sorceress. Lapel needs more treats, so he wants a puppy this time. Liesel said that you can only create 3 things in a short period of time. The bag needs a break. So for now he had to play with the goods he had. Lapel was not at all against it. She asked him to take the treats that he liked and they would give the rest back to their friends. Lapel is so pleased, and the thing is really good, but still she is tired to death. She was so carried away by this little thing that she didn't even close her eyes. She was already falling asleep on the go. Liesel was bothered by lying down for literally a couple of minutes. The boy could not be left unattended for long. Lapel told the rabbit that it was time for him to go home, and also asked the star to be careful on the way. Then he turned around and asked Liesel to play with him, because he was sad to play alone. He realized that she was sleeping and he wanted so much to wake her up, but he couldn't because he was her protector and he had to protect her sleep too. Lapel realized that it didn't have to be Liesel. He had to bring someone to play with him. When he opened the doors, he noticed that there was no one there and decided it was time to hide and seek. He has to find everyone. There are so many doors here, he's tired of looking. Maybe he just needs to go back. By chance, he walked into a room full of different stars and was simply delighted. Suddenly, Liesel woke up. It was as if she had not fallen asleep, but had fallen into a coma. Lapel was probably sitting alone, but suddenly she realized that the boy was gone and the door was open. She couldn't even imagine where he went. What if he got lost in such a huge mansion? So she started looking for him. Silence in response, it means that he has gone far away. She met a maid and she asked her what she was doing. Liesel asked in horror if she had seen the boy on the way, and she frightenedly denied it. The lady did not know at all what to do because she fell asleep, and when she woke up, there was no trace of him, and he could get hurt. Tia was sure he was okay, so she suggested they look together. She would look in the kitchen, maybe he went there. You can't take your eyes off him. She could screw up so badly if something happens to him. It will all be her fault because she was the one responsible for him." The Duke was very angry because the doctor said that he did not have such symptoms when he looked at others. Doctor do not think that this is what he thought and dare to suggest that it is all about his feelings for the lady. Chester didn't understand at all why he had this feeling, as if this old man was smirking at him in such a nasty way. Why did his legs come in this direction, and this was Lady Liesel's room? He told the doctor that there was definitely something wrong with his head and not all this stuff he had made up. All these doctors are simple charlatans, and he needs to get out of here quickly, far, far away as far as possible in the shortest possible time. Otherwise, this lady will blind him again. Suddenly, he bumped into Liesel and didn't understand what was going on. The lady was in tears and begged him to help her. The butler asked in horror what was going on. The lady began to tell him that little Lapel had disappeared. She accidentally fell asleep. When she woke up, he was gone. He never wandered around the mansion alone. Roan asked her to calm down and said that they would now connect others and quickly find him. Lapel couldn't go far because there were guards all around. The lady said that it was all her fault, but he asked her to stand there and come to her senses. And he will come with news, but the lady said that she wants to help with the search. The Duke was very, because he clearly said not to even go near this room without his permission. But the door is open for some reason. Who dared to disobey the order? The gentleman believed that the culprit was still there. He decided to scold him so badly that he would not know what hit him. Chester burst into the room screaming and asked who dared to disobey the order. The boy, meanwhile, was very happy when he saw his uncle. Chester didn't understand at all why Lapel was here, and the boy was very happy hugging the little star. He said that he found a place where all the stars hide during the day, and they were all here, and so beautiful. Everyone was hiding from him in this room, but he found them. Chester didn't understand at all what he should do. In all fairness, he should have been escorted out of here and scolded since this room was intended for the real Lapel. But why do you not want him to do this at all? And it's very strange, he fits in here. Lapel begged his uncle to play with him, but he refused. But the boy insisted because he was very bored playing alone. Well, the gentleman agreed, but only for a short time. Lapel said it was cool, but asked his uncle not to stand there, but to go admire the stars. Lapel said that you just need to lie down on the floor, then the stars will shine even brighter. Chester lay down next to him, but he didn't understand where Liesel was and why he was here alone. The boy said that she fell asleep, but he thought that he shouldn't wake her up. He was already her protector, so he didn't wake her up, but played himself. Chester said it wasn't that he wanted her there, and the boy took that to mean his uncle was glad Liesel wasn't with them. The gentleman simply told him to forget. This little spy, you have to be careful with him, because he can easily blurt out too much in front of her. Dukes has already managed to screw up a couple of times because of her detrimental influence on his perception of the world, so for now we need to try not to bump into her and keep our distance. No matter how hard he trained during the day and was tired, she was always next to him at night, literally in front of his eyes. And although the doctor said that he has no health problems, he is concerned about this condition, so the only right decision now is to try to avoid her. Lapel said he would sing him a song so he wouldn't get bored without Liesel. He wanted to snap at her, but he was a child, so he tried to calm down. The boy was singing a song very sweetly, and suddenly Liesel appeared right in front of him. He thinks it's not normal that a mirage suddenly appears in front of him. There is no one in the kitchen. There is no one on the street either, which means he did not go to the places where he usually goes. The butler thinks that now he needs to search the entire mansion, and he asked the lady not to worry because it is just a matter of time before he is found. There were only the corridors and that place left. He asked Tia to bring everyone who was free now and have them search from that side. Liesel went in a different direction. The mansion was quite big, and she might get lost, so they would go together. The girl did not understand at all that if he was not here, she had lost the child. What if he was wounded or unconscious and therefore could not raise his voice? She begged him that it wasn't true and that he was safe. She had no idea where he was. Roan told Lady that he thought he just heard a boy's voice from the other side. Lapel stood behind the door and waved his hand to the girl and said that he was here. Liesel threw herself into his arms and said that he shouldn't have left like that without permission because something could have happened to him. But the boy said that everything was fine, and that he was fine, and that he was not alone, and that there was also a little star with them. A gentleman came out of the room and asked what the noise was, and when he saw Liesel, he became very scared. The Duke tried to clear his head of these dissolute images and wanted to get ready as quickly as possible. Chester asked Roan what was going on, and he said that the boy had disappeared, so they were all looking for him. Liesel asked for forgiveness for this commotion, and the boy asked her for forgiveness. The lady looked for him everywhere they had been before, but she never found him, so she set the whole house on its ears. Apparently, she was very worried because she looked scared. The gentleman said that everything was fine and that he was partly to blame for what happened. Because the gentleman didn't think that she would be so upset by his absence, Liesel is very grateful that he was with him all this time. Suddenly, the lady began to fall, and the Duke excitedly caught her in his arms. Liesel began to apologize because her legs suddenly gave way, and the butler noted that it was all her nerves playing up. It had happened last time, too. If I remember everything well, then yes, there is such a thing. This body often lets her down at a crucial moment. The gentleman asked her to rest, but she still constantly falls in front of this man. Chester asked Lady if she could go, and she immediately jumped up and said that of course she could, as he thought she couldn't. So he asked the butler to make sure she got some rest. The Duke wished her all the best, and the boy asked her to go faster because the stars would help her and she would not be sick anymore. Liesel was very surprised when she saw what room she had entered. Lapel was playing with the maid, and she told him that this time he would not get rid of her so easily. Liesel noticed that peace and quiet reigned in the Duke's mansion again, which meant that today would pass calmly. She was wondering if the potion would be brought soon because she would still like to return home soon. Lapel needs to get used to the people here. Everything will be fine if she leaves him with them. Moreover, Lapel is definitely the nephew of the stubborn Duke, so everything will definitely work out for them. Honestly, she didn't even expect this. All these toys bought by the Duke and collected in one room. Even during his lifetime, Leon mentioned that Lapel loved the stars, so Mr. Chester decorated the room especially for the boy. Perhaps he feels guilty for not being able to save his family, and that is why he tries so hard for his nephew. Now, Liesel understood that he was ready to humiliate himself for the sake of that toy, although you wouldn't say that he was ready to do such a thing. Now you can relax. All that's left is to take your money and leave this place. Once she leaves this place, everything will end and there will be no more Cutie Lapel, the good people from the mansion, and the Duke. It is unlikely that she will meet them again. Probably no one will mind if she comes to the boy from time to time. But this is the maximum amount of interference that secondary characters like her can allow themselves. It would be bad if history changed because of her. She was sure that they had enough strength on their own to overcome life's hardships. She had this strange feeling that the whole world had turned away from her, and she didn't understand at all where this self-pity came from. She decided to distract herself with food. Only food can lift her mood a little in such situations. The mistress asked if they had a piece of pie, and the maid said she would go and see, but the lady said she would go herself. While she will play with the boy because she still wants to do something along the way, Liesel decided to bring the magic bag to give the boy a treat. They don't have much time left, and she wants him to smile more often around her. She thought about making him a teddy bear first, or a puppy, or maybe even a star. She heard the servants say in surprise, "They were shocked with you that it was Mr. Chester." They tried to be quiet because someone might hear. The maid heard that he was the one who caused the incident. It was said that he wanted to inherit the title, so he did it. So all his actions to find Lapel and the criminal were a complete pretense. Liesel thought that they had completely lost their conscience and did not understand at all how they dared to slander an innocent person. She suddenly emerged from the bushes and asked the servants who had told them such a thing. They were very scared and said that they were just discussing, but the lady shouted that they should answer from whom they heard this. So many documents about these minerals, Chester decided that this would not work, and he needed to rest. When he opened the window, he saw Liesel there. She was very beautiful, and he felt embarrassed when he saw her. Meanwhile, the butler entered the room, and he assumed that his master was tired, so he offered him some tea. But the master said that he would refuse. Roan asked the master where he was going. Chester decided to go for a walk. His head finally cleared up, and he felt better. It's time to go back. If he continues to go straight, he'll definitely run into her, so it's time to go back. unconsciously moving towards her, he will go crazy like that, and he does not want to believe that these attacks of obsession cannot be pacified. He was sure that there was a cure, and suddenly he heard some voices. But he heard the servant saying that he was to blame for everything. He was surprised because he was hearing this in his own estate. Chester decided that everything was to hell and he just wanted to get back and get on with things, not the first time, and he's sure it won't be the last. Well, suddenly he heard a female voice asking who told them that. It was Lady Liesel. The gentleman was very surprised when he saw her. Liesel demanded that they answer who told them about it, and they tried to say that everyone was talking about it. Liesel pointed out that if everyone was talking, it meant that everyone had evidence, but they started saying that they probably didn't. Of course, there is no evidence. She certainly understands that they are servants in a novel and should not have outstanding analytical skills. But you can't talk like that about the master of the house. It seemed like they were tired of living, so she told them that this was nothing more than baseless rumors, so from now on they should watch their language. Because the Duke is not the kind of person who would do that, and I would never do that because he is not like that. And also asked them why they gathered here today in the mansion. They did not give everyone a day off, so they should work instead of chatting here about nothing. The Duke came out of the bushes and told Milady that the wind was getting stronger, and he asked her if she planned to stay outside any longer. Liesel was very surprised because it looked like he could teleport. She was so embarrassed he saw her scolding people as if they were 3 years old. Liesel's unfortunate fate is making fun of her, so she decides to quickly slip away. It seemed to be getting cold outside, so she would take the boy and go into the house. The Dukes were also out of the way, so he suggested that she go together. The girl thought that he was worried about the servants whispering about this behind his back. Even if that was the case, she did not understand at all why he should follow her. Liesel knew she had to say something, so she apologized to him. The Duke did not understand what she was talking about. The lady said that she meant those rumors. She was just a passing guest, but he must have felt terrible and had a pretty hard time. The Duke said that everything was fine and she didn't have to worry about it, and this answer surprised the lady very much. Liesel didn't understand how this could be. He wasn't guilty of anything, and there must be at least some presumption of innocence, and he shouldn't remain silent, otherwise she wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Chester decided to ask her where she was so sure that it wasn't his doing. That's because in the original he wasn't a criminal. He's just Lapel's future puppet and will listen to him like a guy. The lady said it was because she was sure he was not that kind of person at all. The Duke considered her a strange woman. The girl added that if he had set everything up, he would not have looked for the boy. And he wouldn't bother with all those decorations and stars in his room either. Chester didn't understand why she was so sure of him. She acts like they've known each other for 100 years, and she knows him like the back of her hand. Such a pure, distrustful look. The green-eyed girl who instantly dismissed the thought that he could become a criminal. In front of him is a man who for some reason believes in his innocence. The lady thought he was in pain because his face was very red. But Chester said that he doesn't have any pain anywhere. But he's already sick because he has chills or he has a fever. But he refused to give his forehead. The maids said that they were almost born first the lady and then the Duke, and they were very glad that they were scolded only by the lady. Regina didn't understand what was good about being scolded by a swindler. Even the Duke kept silent about who she was to act like the mistress of this house. So far, nothing much has been found out about her calling her. That is a bit rude. A couple of days ago, she was very worried about the disappearance of a boy. Regina thought they were fools because the lady was an actress. She was just playing her part in front of the Duke. She was a devil. She had to be thrown out. She was taking the Duke away from him. Well, everything is ready, but the chef is not sure that it will definitely help. The doctor said to drink more liquids. No one knew that she would tie up so suddenly. Perhaps she was overtired playing with the young master. Anything is possible, yes, and yesterday it was quite cool. The chef asked the maid to hurry up and check on her and also ask if she wanted any special dishes. It would be a sin not to feed a sick person delicious food. Regina bumped into Tia and was very unhappy while they say that she should watch where she is going. Tia immediately apologized and then said that she was a strange assistant and asked to look after the guests, but all she knew was how to disturb others. Regina reported that she had brought all the spices the chef had asked for. Dear Lady Fox counted because she decided to pretend to be sick. A few days ago, she was so into her role that she was looking for the boy with tears in her eyes all for the sake of a fleeting but hot hug from Chester. They continue to do what will come to you only because the point worked the first time. She is such a shameless pretender. Their relationship will not be destroyed by her dirty games and tricks that day Chester chose her. And nothing will change that the chef thought that this woman had suddenly become possessed. The lady said that it was she, and she brought the lady soup which she should eat. Lapel asked her not to die. The lady said that she was fine. The boy cried and said that she was a liar because he couldn't even move. Tia told the boy not to worry, because the lady would soon get better. Liesel asked the maid to take the boy away because he might get infected. Tia told Lapel that they should go for a walk and play some more, but the boy said that he would not go anywhere because Liesel needed him here now. Tia took the child anyway and asked the lady to rest a little. The girl was very grateful to her. It's very good that the maid is helping her. Well, this won't do. This woman's immunity is terrible. She doesn't understand how one could get sick from a simple long walk. She has been here for 3 weeks already. Soon she will have to say goodbye to Lapel, and there is no time to lie in bed. She needs to get back on her feet quickly and spend more time with her baby. Chester kept thinking that these were symptoms of some kind of disease, because this had never happened before, but after looking through all the books, he realized that it all meant only one thing. To blush in front of her, to think about her all day and remember how beautiful she is, to have an increased heartbeat. Apparently, he fell in love with her. But he couldn't believe it, and it was simply unbelievable and unthinkable. She is certainly not extravagant, as rumors say, and he is sure that Liesel dotes on the boy, and of course there can be no talk of any violence. But the fact that he fell in love with her like that, it's very strange, so he decided to review some books again, and now he remembered her again. It seems he is losing his mind because these mirages are constantly happening. Roan approached the gentleman and asked if he had finished with the documents because he told him to wait a little, but he himself was sitting here with Roman and reading. Chester was surprised with you that he asked you to wait. He asked him to wait a little. Now he will solve the issue with the documents. The Duke decided to ask Roan what he liked most about his wife. The butler did not quite understand in what sense he asked the question. The gentleman remarked that there must be something in her since he even married her. Roan was shocked by these amorous questions, and he waited for them. He decided to contact him. He suspected that something was wrong since he started to be nice to Lady, and his intuition did not let him down. The gentleman asked him not to look at him like that, otherwise he would feel awkward. It would be better if he answered the question. As an expert in the matter, I need to describe everything to him from A to Z. Otherwise, he is already so narrow-minded in such matters that it is not worth talking about the first love. Of course, there is one reason for this. One fine morning, he woke up and realized that he loved her. The gentleman noted that it was stupid to fall in love out of boredom, judging by his words he had. But the butler said that nothing was impossible in love, and you can simply understand over a cup of tea that you have fallen in love. No matter what the first impression is in the end, it all comes down to people's feelings and their ability to compromise. Speaking about this, he does not think that all his behavior can be explained by anything other than love. What does the master feel for her? Suddenly, the mistress's maid knocked on the door and asked if she could come in. The master gave permission, and the maid said that Lapel wanted to meet him. The gentleman did not mind and asked if something had happened. The boy immediately ran up to him and started shouting that Liesel had died. Well, that's not true. She just caught a cold and was afraid that she would infect the boy, so they left her. The master asked how she was, and the maid said that she was still feverish, so for now she was resting in the room. The butler noticed that this was his master's chance and turned to him and said that it was high time to court the lady. Chester didn't understand what he was doing here, so he had to leave quickly. Suddenly there was a bouquet in front of him, and behind it was the butler. Roan repeated that he had already told him to pick some flowers and bring the bouquet, sir, as always. The butler noted that it was very good that this was the season of medicinal plants and flowers that helped to cope with fever. He had already washed them so they could be eaten, as is without drying them. Chester asked him if he was sure it was really necessary. This is of course true. In this way he will help Lady recover faster, or he, as always, wants to back down. But the Duke was determined and said he would come to her. Suddenly Roan remembered. He heard that all the ladies liked such things now and whispered something in his ear. And then she said that now he should go full speed ahead and believe the words of his married friend and said goodbye. The fever seems to have gone down, but she still can't sleep, and her head feels like it's going to explode. Suddenly, someone knocked, and she heard the Duke's voice. She wanted to lie down in silence, so she didn't understand at all why he came. Well, she still allowed him to enter and greeted His Highness. You can't show him such a pathetic part of yourself no matter how bad she feels. She did not understand at all why he was silent because she really wanted to rest and send him away from here as quickly as possible. The butler was simply shocked because the Duke was definitely not his best student, and he stood there like a pillar. He hoped that the gentleman had not forgotten how to speak. Chester remembered the butler's words about what he had folded, that now all the ladies liked such romantic gestures, so he took out the bouquet. Liesel asked His Highness what kind of bouquet it was, and the gentleman said that he found it on the way here. Roan was very upset and hoped that he didn't think that this was a romantic gesture that could also touch someone. After that, he handed the bouquet to the lady and realized that something must have gone wrong. Tia came into the room and announced that she had brought boiling water. Liesel was surprised because she had not asked for it. The Duke noted that she would definitely not be superfluous and handed her a glass of warm water. She also added that he had heard that these flowers help with colds, and they were already clean, so she could use them in this form. There's such a cutie there, a really big lapel. Even his little terribly like this one seems special. If I continue to be as gallant and sweet as I am, I will conquer the heart of any woman. Suddenly, the lady realized that she was thinking about something other than Tom. Moreover, it is Tia who should be looking after her, so she does not understand at all why he came here and what kind of gestures are these on his part. There might be a catch. Chester points out that she's probably ready, so he asks her to try taking a sip. This is probably a subtle hint that lapel should not catch the infection. The lady noted that she also tries to be alone so as not to accidentally infect anyone, so he need not worry. Chester was surprised and asked again. The lady noted that she could not believe who that he did all this so that she would not infect the boy because he could have simply told her about it. Roan began to get very worried because his master froze from the lady's sharp answer. Batman entered the room and immediately announced that the gentleman was waiting for city documents, so it was time for him to work. Chester was very angry and shouted that he trusted him, but he could not explain why the plan failed. Roan noted that it was a normal reaction given how he had presented it. The Duke was shocked that he had done something wrong. Roan told him to think for himself, because he had long considered her a fraud and treated her as such. And of course, remembering all this, she will not immediately open up to him and joyfully respond to his gifts. This is logical, but the gentleman does not understand at all what he needs to do. Roan said that he needed to gradually resolve the misunderstanding between them, as he thought he just needed to wait for the potion to arrive. The gentleman did not understand at all why the man did not want to help them with the investigation. Everything was wrong. He just fell, so he cannot at the moment they refuse it completely. The commander understood him. She asked him to be more careful in the future, and the guy promised to try not to put him in an awkward position anymore. It was a waste of time that he entered this body. He needs to do everything possible to win if they take him away. Now he will only move further away from his goal. There is no longer any need for this, as he initially thought. It seems there is simply no other option. The knight told Kay that the commander was looking for him, and Kay immediately went to him. Today he was supposed to look after the child, but it seems they want to assign him something else. The commander reported that he had called him regarding a request for assistance in a carriage crash incident. Now they need people to do a second investigation. That's why he invited him. Kay knew it would be an investigation, so she said that frankly he doesn't think he's good enough to be involved in the investigation. The commander did not understand why he was so suddenly giving up what he had previously been interested in. It was the same last time. This was not the Kay that the master knew. Some say that he trains less diligently, so he thinks that something happened. Kay immediately started denying everything and said that he just felt a little tired in recent days, and from now on he will try harder in training, and of course he can include him in the list. The commander noted that he was a good guy, but he would still keep an eye on him so he shouldn't relax. It's bad. If he's going to put on a show for the knights at the scene, he won't be able to be near the object. And what's more, he doesn't know whether the commander noticed anything, but he needs to be under surveillance like a fifth leg for a dog. He climbed the tree and decided that he no longer needed this vessel, and then he turned into his real self, and the guy's body fell from the tree. It would be weird if he just disappeared, so we should leave him here. The memory of the time he spent in the stone has already faded, and there is nothing to worry about. Now he will try to solve the problem differently. Liesl said that of course she sold it. Casey was just in shock because she really is amazing. Because she would never sell such a rare bag. No, you have to get rid of unnecessary junk if you don't need it. Lapel called Liesl and said that he gave them names and then listed them. The girl noted that these were very cool names and their boy was such a genius. Casey didn't understand what kind of genius he was, because it was just a bunch of letters. Liesl also added that there was something special about his taste, because the names were elegant. After that, she sneezed, and Casey asked her if her cold was gone. Liesl said that it was all over, and that it was probably just chilly in the room, so she would close the window now, and everything would be fine. Suddenly, a cat jumped into the window. Everything was fine, but she didn't understand why this little animal was there. Lapel was very happy. Casey said that it was so lovely, and did not understand at all where such sweetness came from. The boy asked very much to leave this cat with them, but the lady did not even know because the animal might be against it. Casey noticed that she has different colored eyes and is so beautiful, so she wants to scratch her behind the ear. But the cat rejected her, and she did not understand at all why he rejected her like that, because she could be a rich lady who would love or pamper him all her life. Liesl told the boy that he should know that he can only pet cats with their permission. Liesl told Casey to leave her and offered to talk to her. Lapel noticed that the cat was looking at him and thought that it wanted him to pet it. He noticed that the cat was coming towards him and was very happy. Meanwhile, the cat sat right on Liesl's lap. Casey was absolutely thrilled because she liked her right away. Lapel said that Liesl was very cool and asked to pet the cat. It seems she doesn't mind. She even purrs and doesn't move. Casey, I'm so jealous because I want to pet her too. Smooth approach, and it's a success. Chester was surprised with you that Casey came to his house. She didn't even come to him. Does that mean that he and Liesl are gossiping about him there? But he doesn't think that Liesl likes such small talk, and it seems that cases don't gossip. She's still more his than Liesl. He also thinks Casey might blab too much. This really irritates him, so he needs to send her home. Roan was surprised with you that the master was leaving because he wanted to tell him something. But the Duke told him to come back later because he had urgent business now. Roan assured him that it was of the utmost importance, so the master agreed to listen to him. The butler wanted to inform him that the potion had arrived. The magician found one and immediately sent it to them, and he also said that it would be enough to test one child. Chester was very happy and immediately praised the butler. Rowan asked if he could call the lady and the boy right away. Even if he uses it now to resolve all the issues of understanding between them, the outcome is already obvious. So the master told the butler not to tell the lady yet. This answer surprised Roan very much. Chester asked when the potion they ordered would arrive. The servant noted that it would be in about 5 days. The Duke remarked that it was nice, and after 5 days they were talking about it, but she had already decided to stay with them for a month. Roan realized that the problem was that he didn't want to let Lady go home so early. The palace did not understand him, and noted that he was too careless, and also asked if he needed to return this bottle. The gentleman denied it and said that they would not tell her, but they were conducting an investigation. He ordered the drink to be prepared, and he would bring Lapel. Meanwhile, they were very happy about the cat. Casey told her to let them enjoy the sight, and so the mistress touched his paw. Casey was just so excited and asking how it was. It's so soft and she can't describe it in words. Lapel told her that she was very lucky and that he wanted the same. Casey is also jealous, and I wonder what motivated her to dislike them, but she dotes on Liesl. Perhaps she wants her to become his mistress. Liesl didn't think so because she already had a collar, which meant she had an owner, but they didn't understand at all what to do. Chester knocked on the door of the room and the boy allowed him to enter. The gentleman apologized, and Lapel was very happy when he saw his uncle. Liesl asked what the gentleman had said, that he would like to take the boy with him. Suddenly the Duke noticed the cat, and he began to worry that his perfect disguise had been seen through. Chester didn't understand at all what kind of furry thing was sitting on the lady's hands, so he asked what kind of cat it was. He really is very suspicious. The rumors were not lying. We need to show him that he is the most harmless cat in the world. Liesl didn't understand at all what was wrong with him because he was scaring the cat. She believed that because of this that they brought her into the room without his permission, so they were asking him for forgiveness. The Duke realized that she had decided to finish him off with her hot embraces with this and the animals, and the lady continued to say that they had not done it on purpose. Things were bad, so the cat decided to pretend to be asleep. Liesel said that she had climbed into the room through the balcony, she must have gotten lost, and was wandering around here. The Duke was surprised because he did not understand at all how she could climb over the balcony if even the crown of the trees was so low. So the lady thinks that her master lives here, so she asked the gentleman if he knew who he was. As far as the gentleman knows well, no one here has a cat. Liesel said that in that case they should take care of the baby until the owner was found, but the Duke was categorically against it. Casey, Liesel, and Lapel were completely confused as to why he thought that the master said it was because the butler was allergic to cats. Casey pointed out that she didn't even know about it. Liesel pointed out that she had no choice but to take her home. Chester was very angry because Lady and this creature would be left alone. Chester said he forbade it. No one dares to try to win Liesel's heart before him, including that cat. The lady did not understand at all what they should do with her. Then Chester said that he would hand her over to the butler so that he could find the cat's owner. Well, he's allergic to cats, Casey seemed to understand. The Duke began to say that everything would be fine if he did not touch her. Casey told Liesel to just trust him, and she blushed just like the Duke. Chester apologized and said that he had come here for the boy, and that they would be back soon. Casey laughed because she understood what kind of passions this was, because it had been a long time since something like this had happened right before her eyes. She heard right that time, and he really does think Liesel is cute. Casey noted that she had a question and was wondering how she felt about her little brother. She is curious about how he seems to her and asks Liesel to be honest with her. The girl noticed that he was very rich, even indecently rich. You understood that it was a problem, but you wished your obscenely rich brother good luck. She giggled so much that she probably already understood everything, so she wouldn't give it away to Liesel. He must prepare himself for the ridicule that will haunt him for the next 5 years. Lapel told him that his face was red and the boy thought he was sick. Well, the gentleman said that of course it wasn't so, and the skin turned red because of the heat. After that, the boy asked where they were going. The gentleman said that they were going to the room with the stars, but the boy didn't understand why it's good that he had just recently bought a new toy. So the gentleman said that a new star had appeared that he wanted to show him. When Lapel heard about it, he asked the children to go quickly. The Duke was surprised with you that he liked the stars so much. Lapel said that of course it was, but he liked his uncle as much as he liked those twinkling stars. Chester remembered Leon telling him that children weren't just fragile and precocious creatures. They had an incredible ability to make people smile just by looking at them. Someday the day will come when he will understand his brother. The gentleman heard strange sounds, so he asked the boy what he was doing. Lapel said that he was sniffing him. The Duke was absolutely horrified and asked if he smelled. Lapel said he didn't know, but it was very different from Liesel's. And he looks a little familiar. Chester didn't understand what the hell it was. The boy was flooded with memories and became very scared and started screaming. Chester didn't understand at all what was wrong with him, and the boy said that he was in pain. The gentleman immediately asked what and where it hurt to, which the boy replied that his head hurt very badly. Roan approached his lordship and asked what was wrong, and he shouted for him to call the doctor alive. The gentleman did not understand at all why he suddenly felt so ill. The doctor said that his body was in perfect order, but Chester thought that this couldn't be because he was interested and it hurt him. Roan isn't quite sure, but maybe his memories are coming back. The doctor was very surprised when she heard that he had lost his memory. Chester confirmed this and asked if it could be related to the headaches. The doctor believed that this was indeed the case and that it was quite likely if there had been no similar symptoms before. There have been cases where people's heads literally split when their memory returned. Chester decided to ask what to do about it, but the doctor said that they could only watch. He can give you a painkiller. It will help if the pain becomes unbearable. Just think he can stand there and watch him shake in agony. So the gentleman decided that he needed to give him a painkiller and ask the baby to eat it, and then he would feel better. But Lapel didn't want to eat it because it smelled terrible. Chester said he needed to drink it if he wanted to feel better. If he drank, they would go see the new star, so the boy immediately stopped crying and asked if Liesel could go with them. Of course, the Duke gave his permission and promised that he would soon feel better. Lapel was a fine fellow because he endured such bitter medicine. The butler said that he had brought his favorite juice and that he was sure that it would help to remove the unpleasant aftertaste from the medicine. He also called the lady, after which the boy said that he wanted to sleep and the gentleman wished him pleasant dreams. Chester said they should go out so he could get some proper rest. Roan congratulated the master because he found the boy because this juice was with a potion. Chester was absolutely horrified because this meant that this child was Lepelian Leon's son. Liesel asked if she was really going to leave me after saying goodbye to him. Casey said yes, and he definitely wouldn't say anything to her about it because they hadn't known each other for ages. And he himself probably would now prefer not to see her afterwards. They said goodbye. Oh, the lady wished her a good journey. She behaved strangely after that when the Duke came to them, and she probably doesn't understand something. Tia ran to the lady and said that the young master was ill and the Duke was calling her to him immediately. Liesel was very scared and asked the maid to watch the cat, and she herself ran to the boy. The cat was in shock because just recently everything was fine with him. He needed to seize the moment something important could happen there now, so he started running after her. Liesel burst into the room screaming. The gentleman noticed that she was a little late. He had just fallen asleep. The Duke gave him medicine. The lady did not understand at all what had happened and why he was not well. Chester noted that perhaps his memory was returning, which was what was causing the headaches. Liesel was very happy because it meant that it was not an illness, and she felt a great relief. Liesel looked at the gentleman and the boy and realized that something had definitely changed. Nothing could have happened in such a short time, so it is completely unclear why he has such a serious and gloomy face. Liesel asked the gentleman if he was okay. Chester apologized. Because he was respectful to her all this time and doubted her although there was no reason, and he is very sorry. Liesel thought that maybe he was sick too, because she thought he had problems. He's a liar? Because the Duke would never say something like that and probably hit his head on some cobblestone. She wanted to tell the doctor that he had a patient here. The Duke turned to Liesel and said that he sincerely asked her forgiveness. The lady didn't even know what to answer to that. Suddenly the boy woke up. Liesel was very happy and asked him if he was feeling better. Lapel smiled and said that it was almost painless. The lady noted that he was recovering very quickly and that he was doing very well. Lapel told Liesel to go to bed too because he wanted to sleep with her. He really wants her to be near him, so he asks her to lie down. Suddenly, Liesel realized that this was the very room that Chester had prepared for his nephew. He definitely won't let Lapel stay here, so she suggested that Lapel go back to his room and sleep there. But Lapel didn't understand why Liesel said that it was because this room belonged to them. The Duke said that everything was fine. The lady was in shock because this room was not for him. Chester said that let the boy lie there. He had already suffered enough and said that the boy could come here at any time. Liesel didn't understand at all what had happened to him. He said he would go and ask to call him if he was needed. But Lapel asked her uncle to wait and lie down on the other side. He really wanted to sleep with them. The Duke was in complete shock. This is the desire of Lepelian himself. The Duke is struck in the very heart, and it is impossible to refuse. So the three of them lay down. Soon the boy fell asleep, and Liesel noticed that for the first time he talked so much before going to sleep, and it was probably because his uncle was nearby. Liesel also asked if they were distracting him from his work and if everything was okay. Chester noted that he had stayed there of his own free will, although it was a little awkward to find himself in the same bed with her. Liesel was truly grateful that the gentleman had taken care of the boy today. The Duke said that nothing because he was his uncle, and now again probably even she can hear his heartbeat. He wanted to calm down. He needed to talk about something else. When he remembered, he noticed that the lady was already asleep. He was delighted that she could sleep so calmly and peacefully even in this situation. Suddenly his hand reached out to her, and the Duke believed that his hand had gone mad, and he forbade her to act without coordinating everything with him. His hand tried to touch the sleeping lady, so it was time for him to sleep, and no more strange thoughts and impulses. The cat noticed that everything was very confusing, so he needed to continue observing. The butler knocked on the master's door. Roan noticed that his master was so happy to see him, or something had happened. He did not understand at all what had happened to him and asked the gentleman to tell him everything. Chester said he didn't know where to start. You see, Roan didn't know where to start asking questions either, so he had to start somewhere. He also noticed Lady Liesel in the window. Judging by the Duke's reaction, he was probably right. Roan noted that he asked her for forgiveness, and it seemed that even she responded normally. That may be true, but it seems she is not interested in him as a man. He was convinced of this that day when they slept in the same bed. He was so nervous that he could not sleep. But Liesel fell asleep peacefully, and afterwards it didn't even seem like she attached any significance to it. Lapel before her, as if there is no place in her heart for the Duke. The butler noted that he had even begun to notice this. It was simply amazing how a person could change. So the gentleman will give in. But Chester didn't say that because he's not some weakling who can't even get the lady's attention. The gentleman told the butler to stop and ask what he wanted to tell him. Roan said they had a guest. Chester was very surprised because he had made appointments with me for today. The man noted that he himself had decided to suddenly come and visit him. This was Count Cedric de Rico, and he was waiting for his master. And the Count noted that the performance was of course excellent, and it was a pity that the Duke was not there. Roan asked the gentleman if he wanted anything else, and then he said that everything was fine, and he could go because they best friends needed to talk. Rohan was sure his master would argue with such a statement. And the Count noted that his father had sent him his regards. Thanks to the Duke, their sales volume with the Imperial Palace increased, and his father was very happy about this. Cedric didn't understand at all what kind of reaction Chester was having. The Duke said that if that was all he could go, the man was surprised that he was so busy that he couldn't even talk to his friend. When he looked out the window, he saw a woman there and realized it was Liesel Frozen. The Duke tensed up and asked him if he knew this woman. Cedric doesn't know her personally, but he's seen her a couple of times before. She is popular in a very bad sense, and Cedric also decided to ask what she was doing here. The Duke calmly answered him that it was none of his business, and Cedric did not understand why he was treating him so cruelly. Cedric also asked what kind of child it was, and hoped that this woman was not manipulating the Duke through this child. Chester didn't understand what kind of nonsense this was and asked if he was sane. The Count was just worried about him. Because I heard that her family went bankrupt because of her, and for such a girl who only has a pretty face, the best thing is to sell all her property, or it would be advantageous to marry. He just said this, by the way, and he shouldn't take it with hostility. And the Duke has both a title and money, so he thinks that this woman would like to get closer to the master. Chester ordered him to repeat the last thing he said, Cedric said, as if I had always had to be on guard with a fox like that. She probably only needed money from him. The Duke grabbed him and said that if he heard such a thing again, he would not spare him, because this woman is not like that. And then he let him go and told him to get out of his sight and not to see him again. The Count did not understand at all what was wrong with him, and she thought that he was simply in a bad mood. Because he didn't think he did anything wrong, because he wouldn't get angry at him just because he said something about a girl. Chester asked him if he had hurt him badly because he should get lost before he broke his neck. The Count said that they were nobles and he had no right to talk to him like that. He would still remember this. The butler entered the room and decided to ask his master what had happened. Chester announced that they were terminating all contracts with the de Rico family. Roan was very surprised and noted that they would not suffer any losses from this, but why did he do it so suddenly? Chester said that even if they did, he would tear them apart. The Duke ordered him to find out how much her family owed and to whom. Even if she doesn't choose him, he can't let her marry because of the need for money. Liesel asked, so that the boy wouldn't move because now all the water would be on the floor. Lapel said that he would make some bottles for her too and asked her to look at him. Liesel was glad that he was no longer afraid of water. Meanwhile, the bubbles burst right on her nose. The girl was grateful, and since that was the case in gratitude, she would make him taller. Liesel added more foam, and the boy looked in the mirror and saw that his head had become huge. Lapel was very happy because he had become so tall for the truth and suggested that she do this. But the girl said that she didn't need that and she would refuse because she would have to wash again later. Liesel asked the boy if they would dry his hair, but the boy said they wouldn't. But if she caught him, then yes. It seems like they'll dry out on their own if he keeps running like that. Tia wished the lady good night. The lady was very kind to her. Then the maid remembered and said that tomorrow was that very day, but the mistress did not quite understand what she was talking about. And then Tia said that it was okay and it was already night outside, so she went. Liesel didn't quite understand what it was, and the boy asked if he could drink some milk already. The girl apologized and told him to sing it quickly before it got cold. Liesel realized that the potion would arrive tomorrow and that their paths would soon diverge. She noticed that the boy sighed very happily when he finished drinking his milk, so she asked who taught him that. Lapel said that Molds does this, and the lady was surprised that he also drinks milk. The boy didn't know he had something yellow there, but it was cool, so now he does it too. The lady said that he shouldn't do that in front of others, but the boy didn't understand why. And all because he will grow up among a bunch of nobles who will constantly look for dirt under his fingernails. But she told him that because people will envy his new cool habits, so he should not show it to others. Well, now it's time for them to go to sleep. The boy didn't want to sleep and turned to Liesel. The boy asked if they could sleep with their uncle like last time. She felt uneasy that time. She can't voluntarily sign up for this again, and she thinks that she even snorted then, and it embarrasses her very much. So she said she would do it next time, and Lapel decided to find out when that next time would be. So the girl said that probably the day after tomorrow. Lapel agreed, but she definitely had to keep her word because she had promised. She really wanted to apologize because then she would no longer be here, and she knew that this false promise would hurt him. But although she found him because of the reward in this short time, he managed to become the most valuable thing she has in life. Therefore, she hugged the boy and quietly cried, and she was truly very sorry. Roan decided to ask the master if he needed to delay the delivery of the potion for a couple of days, but the master said that it was not necessary. It's all because he had already promised the lady, so he knocked on her door and said he would come in. Liesel was surprised and asked if the juice was a potion and if it had any side effects. The Duke denied it. He can trust her. The lady asked the boy to wake up because his uncle had come. Roan noticed that the boy was probably thirsty, so he brought him some juice. Lapel was very happy and said that he was very thirsty, but suddenly the Duke stopped everything. Liesel asked him what it was and thought that he remembered something. Chester said something like that. He said automatically what was on his mind, and there was no way to drag this out any longer. The lady approached him and asked in a whisper if he was absolutely sure that there were no side effects. She thought he lied to her, but in fact everything is not so and something is. The Duke said that it is not so, but the lady did not understand why he suddenly told him not to drink. He said that he just said it. The lady did not understand what kind of answer this was and was shocked that he decided to lie. She was shocked with you that he still didn't trust her, but the gentleman assured her that it was not about that at all. He just wanted her to stay here even if just for one more moment. Chester told her that he wanted her to, but suddenly the boy interrupted them and said that he had drunk the juice. The boy remembered that he had promised not to interrupt the adults' conversation, so he apologized. Liesel approached him and asked if everything was okay and how he was and if he was in pain somewhere. Chester repeated that he had already said that he would be okay. Liesel understood him and asked what would happen now. She thought that there would be some effect from the potion, a magical glow maybe. The gentleman noted that they now knew for sure that Lapel was his nephew. He knew about it for a long time, but his heart still squeezes at the mere thought that he found it. Now his brother could rest easy. The lady was glad that he had finally made sure of everything. Chester noted that it was all thanks to her, so he was grateful to her. The lady thought that he should hug the boy now, but he was so heartless. Liesel told Lapel to hug his uncle, and the boy was very happy about the hug and jumped right into his master's arms. The butler said that he too sincerely thanked the lady. Liesel felt that there was nothing to thank her for, because she's glad they found each other. Roan was very surprised. The lady did not understand at all where her tears came from. Chester was in shock, and the boy began to ask why she was crying. Liesel didn't want this because she was going to leave them with a smile on her face. All her efforts to make their last moment happy and carefree went down the drain. Lapel asked her what it was and why she was crying. Liesel said it was nothing, just a speck of dust in her eye. The Duke gave her a handkerchief. She was grateful to him, and the last thing she wanted to show him was her tears. The lady really wanted to stop crying, but she couldn't. She didn't understand at all what to do. The tears just rolled down her cheeks. She had to leave quickly, so she turned to the boy and asked him to obey his uncle from now on. He should also eat carrots and not be afraid to swim if he is afraid to sleep alone. Then he should ask his uncle to come and they can sleep together. Lapel must grow up to be a big and healthy boy. After these words, the girl hugged him very tightly. Lapel said that if she went somewhere, he would go with her. But Liesel said that this was his home now, so it was better for him to be here. The boy cried a lot because she promised that she would always be there for him. Liesel began to apologize, but she had to go to her house. Lapel denied it in every way. He said that he would go with her and they could live in the same house. The Duke looked at them both crying and did not know what to do. The lady asked if he could take him away. The Duke asked the butler to take the child. Lapel screamed at them to leave him because he was going with her, but the boy clung to her so tightly that he even tore her shirt. He asked her to take him with her and not leave him because he wanted to be with her. Liesel only asked when she could receive her reward. The Duke would write her a check now. Liesel apologized for this because she wanted to get home as soon as possible, so she asked him to send her luggage home. She had already decided to leave and thanked him for this hospitality, but the Duke asked her to stop. Chester began to apologize for treating her with disdain. The lady said that he need not worry because it was expected, and it was good that now all the misunderstandings were behind him. Lapel cried very loudly, but the lady apologized and said that it was time for her to go. The Duke decided that things couldn't end like this, so he asked the butler to look after the child, and he ran after the lady. He grabbed her hand and asked her to stop and wait. Chester asked that my lady give him a moment of her time. In fact, he knew that if he insisted that she not leave, things would end badly, but if he kept her, he would do it at any cost. So he asked them to examine her wounds first, and then talk. She still had not calmed down, and the Duke asked her to wait a little while he brought the first aid kit. She was so excited that she cried even more. She was so ashamed she didn't understand how much she could cry, and she hoped that he wouldn't make fun of her later. Probably not, because they don't have any later, and that's right, today is their last day together. She would never meet any of these people again, and this was the room she came to ask the Duke for a favor. This situation would never happen again, and so she wanted to cry again, but she had only just calmed down. The Duke apologized for being a little late. He brought her some water. Liesel knew she should be happy, because she would never see that sullen or irritated face again. Liesel could pay off the family's debts once she got her reward, and it was a great day, so she tried to smile somehow. The Duke noticed that she was still feeling unwell, so he thought he should probably leave her alone for a little while. But the girl said that everything was fine, so the Duke asked her to show him where she was hurt. Liesel informed the Duke that she could treat the wound herself. Her sleeve would only get in the way, so she decided to just rip it off. The Duke knew he probably shouldn't have seen that, but he had to calm down because now was not the time to be daydreaming. Liesel had already finished, so she began asking what he wanted to talk to her about. Chester is in trouble because he has been holding her up for no reason all this time, and he can't come up with a good reason that quickly. If he were with Edric, I would easily come up with something stupid. But as soon as he remembered it, he decided that this wouldn't work if he let her go like this. Then his words could become reality. This means that he will have to detain her. Of course, he does not like to lie, but now there is no other option. The lady did not understand at all why he was hesitating. The Duke tried to speak and still managed to propose marriage. Liesel asked again. The Duke repeated once more that he was proposing to marry her. Liesel did not understand at all what he was saying and why he suddenly started talking about it. She did not think that he was ill or drunk. Chester calmly said that he was of sound mind and memory. The girl did not think that a person who clearly had some problems could say such a thing. Whatever the reason she refuses, the gentleman was shocked with you that she doesn't like the idea of marrying him so much. Liesel confirmed this and said that she shouldn't want to become his wife at all because they weren't in love with each other. He asked her to do it for the boy, as she sees he feels bad without her, and he doesn't think that the boy can cope on his own, and he worries about him. She understood this and said that she knew that Lapel needed her, but she did not understand why he needed her. The Duke thought about confessing his feelings to her right then and there, and yet he did it anyway. The lady apologized and said that I was a little cold and asked again what he had just said. She didn't hear it because of the sneeze. It would simply be difficult for him to raise the boy alone. The lady asked if this meant that they would have a contract marriage for the sake of the boy. After all, a man and a woman cannot live under the same roof if they are not in a relationship. Liesel understands him and his reasons, but she is still forced to refuse because she has a personal life and her own desires. She doesn't want to get married without love, so she said that if that's all he has, then she'll be leaving. The Duke tried to stop her and asked her to think about everything carefully, but at first she said a lot that no matter how you look at it, it was still a marriage. The Duke asked her to stop and shouted that they should make a contract for only 1 year, and he would increase the reward 100 times. As he thought it didn't work, but the lady turned to him and asked if she should call him dear. Lapel finally fell asleep, and the butler was very happy that they had Tia, and he also asked her to look after him for now. The maid said that he needn't worry. Roan said that he would leave it to her then, because she was the one who needed to take care of his things. The maid asked if this meant that he had been recognized as the true heir of the House of Hylos. She was so glad that they had finally found him. They were lucky after all, but the maid decided to ask if this meant that the lady was about to leave them. She didn't even know if she would be able to say goodbye to her in time. Roan thought that the gentleman wanted to see the lady off, so he didn't understand at all why he still hadn't returned. The butler did not want to believe that he could do something wrong again. Liesel opened the curtains and told Sleeping Beauty to wake up because they wanted to have breakfast together, and then Gertseva said to look at their baby's smile. He is her only one, dear, and she loves him so much words cannot express her love. The lady asked if he was listening to her at all. These were all the Duke's thoughts. Liesel noticed that he was always in the clouds and he still couldn't finish the contract. The gentleman asked for another minute because he was almost done. He wanted to get ready because it was just a contract marriage and a fake wedding. The girl did not understand at all what was wrong with him and believed that he was disappointed because of her greedy nature. But 1 billion shillings is not a joke. For that kind of money you can sell your soul, and she will also be able to live without poverty for the rest of her life. She decided that she would live happily as a minor character in this world, so she couldn't miss this chance. In a year she will be a divorced woman in the Middle Ages, but this is not a problem because she does not need to marry a second time, and she will also be rich enough not to worry about what people are gossiping about. She has a bad reputation, after all, which means that the Duke will have to face gossip much earlier than she does. He was going to spend the same amount of money again to finally achieve the status of a divorced man. He seemed genuinely willing to do anything for the boy, and she said he would. The contract is ready, and the gentleman asks her to let him know if she wants to make changes to it. This fictitious marriage must last for a year. Both parties must fulfill their duties properly. In the event that she may need the assistance of the second party, then she must notify her of this 2 days in advance and obtain consent for this. At the end of the contract, Chester will pay Liesel 1 billion shillings. The lady noted that this was a lot of money and asked him if he would change his mind later. He was surprised and said that he could earn them even if he just breathed. This is something in the language of the rich, so the lady was only worried in vain. The 5th point was that you cannot tell anyone about this contract. The 6th thing is that the contract can be extended if both parties agree. Liesel wondered if they could remove the 6th clause. It simply cannot be that both would want to be married after a year of living together. But the gentleman said that it cannot be removed. The girl was surprised because he himself said that she should tell him if she wants to change something. So now he's mad because she wanted to make a change, so she decided to go along with it. Later, I asked, what if someone finds out about this contract due to an accidental mistake by one of the parties? She figured that the contract would be automatically cancelled, or some sort of compensation would have to be paid. Chester was almost there. She couldn't let any contract ruin everything. So he said that regarding this, they would add a clause according to which the offender would have to comply with the demands of the other party. If she agrees with all the points she can sign or she needs a little more time to think it over. Liesel said no because there was nothing to think about when she had already come this far. True, but still an important decision should not be made so hastily. This is a magical contract, and if the terms of the agreement are not followed, you can get physical pain or even die. Now the lady understood why the magic symbol flashed for a second, but in any case, she would only be in the plus. So she said it was all right and signed, and also noted that it was now the Duke's turn. That was all, and the Duke hoped for cooperation on her part, but after that they did not shake hands. But she still needs to go home first. The Duke understood her and also asked when she would be back. Liesel asked what about him and when he was going to come. The gentleman didn't quite understand what she was talking about. If they don't want to appear suspicious, then he should come to her and not the other way around. Chester didn't understand what she meant. The lady noted that he had to talk to her parents. The Duke was in complete horror when he realized that he was about to meet his parents. He somehow didn't think about it. The lady didn't understand what it was and whether he really wanted to do without it. Now he really has problems. The girl threw open the doors and ran into her father's room. The gentleman asked Saloni how many more times she had to repeat herself because she should never forget her manners, even if her father was in front of her. So she greeted the Count properly. He noted that everything was correct and then asked why she decided to come to him and was in such a hurry. She noticed that her beloved daddy, as always, got straight to the point. Father said that she shouldn't pull the wool over his eyes, and she already did. The lady said that she had figured out what she wanted for her 19th birthday. The father was surprised because he thought that all the questions about gifts had already been decided, but she came up with something else. She asked her father to invite him to their place for her sake. As a gift for her 19th birthday, she wants him to invite Duke Hylos to visit them. Liesel asked him if he wanted to meet her parents, but he said that wasn't the point. He certainly didn't think the conversation would go that way. Since the marriage is fictitious, there is no need to worry about it, and that is probably what the Duke thinks. But still, he doesn't want to hurt the parents who put their souls into raising their child. They cried so much when they said goodbye to Lapel, although they knew him for only a short time. If they find out she's getting married for money, they'll definitely faint. She can already see the despair in their eyes. Liesel said she didn't want to hurt her parents, so he would have to do everything right so they wouldn't suspect anything. They can just have dinner together, and then he will show them that he supposedly loves her with all his heart, and that will be enough. The Duke still understood that he was the only one who was in love, so he said that he understood her. And he also decided to ask what kind of people her parents were. The girl was surprised that he was really interested. So I asked him if he wanted to bring them gifts, and he said yes, a small gift chosen with love would be enough. The gentleman decided to consult with the butler later and said that he would arrive the day after tomorrow. Liesel was surprised that he was so quick, but he thought the sooner the better, so they said goodbye. The lady said that she would now go and see the boy before leaving, so she asked him to arrange a carriage for her. The gentleman asked her to stop and take off his coat and put it on her because it was already cold, and also wished her a good journey. His expression seemed to not want to let her go. The butler burst into the room and was surprised that the lady was still there. Liesel said she was going to see the boy now, so Rohn said he was in his room. The butler asked her to be careful on the way. The lady thanked his lordship for the coat and said that she would return it at their next meeting. The butler nevertheless decided to ask the gentleman whether he had persuaded her to go on a date. Did he really gather all his courage when he learned that the lady wanted to leave the estate? If he could be of use to him, he asked to contact him. Rohn will help him with any love affairs. The Duke asked him to find him a place to hold the wedding. The butler was very angry because he didn't know who was dragging the girl down the aisle on the first date. But Chester said there was no date. He made it all up. Rowan understood and accepted that he wouldn't ask someone out on a date, and then he began to think that someone he knew was getting married and asked for whom to pick a place. Chester said it was for him. Rowan asked if he was really going to marry the lady, and of course he was. The butler was simply perplexed and did not understand how this could have happened. No matter how much he fell in love, he must understand that a wedding cannot be arranged with the consent of only one of the parties. The gentleman asked him to calm down because the lady agreed to marry him. Rohn began to think that the master had forced her to agree. Well, if he asked another question like that, he would be dead, because what did he think of the Duke anyway? The palace immediately told her that he was a good, wonderful person, and so amazing that in a moment he persuaded the lady to marry, but there was a but. Chester turned away. The butler realized that this was indeed the case, but his wedding had added a lot of work. Since she agreed to such a deal, although he did not, it would still be easier if he offered to become a nanny for the master. The Duke agreed, but the butler did not hear him, and asked again what his master had just said. But in that case, he would not be able to stop her possible marriage, and he cannot allow her to be with someone else. Rohn realized that his master was going crazy with love. Liesel thought that the boy would sleep until the morning, and she was very sorry because she wanted to talk to him before leaving. Tia said that when she wakes up, she will talk to him too, so she doesn't have to worry. The boy began to talk in his sleep and ask her not to leave him alone. Lapel woke up in the middle of the night in tears and wondered where Liesel was. He started looking for her and did not understand where she had gone and why she had left him. When he looked out the window, he noticed a cat there. Liesel reported that she had returned and was asking her mother and father how they were doing. The parents were very happy to see her, and the mother noted that she had been gone for so long that they were already worried. Still, she didn't come empty-handed, and the gifts were modest, of course, but she tried to choose something that would suit their taste. The father noted that she was definitely his daughter, and the butler was very touched by the fact that she had not forgotten about him. The lady noted that it was already very late and she was tired from the journey, so she would go and they could talk in the morning. Her mother asked how the boy was and whether she had said goodbye to him. The father had no idea what it would be like for this child without her. The girl noticed that Liesel's parents were such wonderful people after all, so she said that he would be fine because the Duke was a good man. Her mother agreed. He is now with his family. The boy will definitely be fine there. Her father told her not to say that because it was a shame that they would not see the baby. Liesel agreed, but if they wanted to meet, they could come to an agreement. Then she immediately ran away and said that they would talk tomorrow because she was exhausted and didn't even have the strength to move her tongue. Her beloved, dear, adored crib, and she is so happy to meet it. A difficult conversation awaits her in the morning. She will be able to see Lapel every day because she is marrying the Duke. For some reason, she decided to tell them everything in such a way as if she really were a spoiled daughter. Still, the morning is wiser than the evening. Meanwhile, the cat walked around the garden and found a place where no one should notice her. At that very moment, he turned into a human. He couldn't get in touch because of the security. It really irritates him. He asked the stone to hurry up and connect him with the owner. Hazen is on the line, the master is too, and so he decided to inquire about how his servant is doing. The man said that it was indeed that child and then asked what he should do now. The stranger thought about what he should really do with him, take him away from there alive or kill him on the spot. Hazen asked to be given the order because he would carry out any of his wishes. Suddenly he heard someone calling the cat. It was a boy. Hazen was very scared and did not understand why he was there at all. When the boy looked towards the bushes, he saw a cat there and was very happy. Hazen sighed heavily because he had not been discovered, and he was very happy. He didn't understand at all why the boy was there and not in bed. He didn't understand that the animal didn't like him, but he was a child. The boy did not understand where the kitty was going and asked her to stay with him. This irritates him very much, so he needs to get rid of the baby quickly. Lapel asked him not to go away and not to leave him, but suddenly the boy caught on a branch and fell. Hazen didn't understand at all what kind of idiot he was. There couldn't be Hertzian blood flowing in his veins. Lapel burst into tears very loudly, and indeed this is a problematic boy. The cat needed to find a quiet place and finish her report, but the boy continued to cry and say that he was just like Liesel. Now he is leaving him too, but the boy doesn't want to, so he asks him to stay. Lapel doesn't want to be alone. Everyone leaves him, so the cat decided to come back to him. The boy was very grateful to her for coming back and began to hug her. Hazen. I wanted him to misunderstand it because he made it out that he was irritated by loud children's cries. And not because of some sympathy towards him. In no case, such contact is unlikely to prevent him from fulfilling his mission. Everyone in horror began to look for the young gentleman. The cat was very scared and realized that everyone was looking for him. It would really be weird if they weren't looking for a child who should be in bed right now. This is bad. He really wanted the kid to leave him alone and he ran away. Chester, terrified, looked for and called Lapel. There were maids and butlers with him. The boy saw his uncle and the Duke realized where he had been all this time. The cat had a bad feeling. Tia apologized to the master for not keeping an eye on the young master. The Duke said that everything was fine. They found him, so he asks her to put him back to sleep. The butler noted that he had been outside for a long time, so he needed to be warmed up first. The maid offered him some warm milk to drink. The maid noticed that it seemed to be the cat from that time, so she decided to ask the boy why he had this cat in his arms. Lapel said that she would stay with him. Hazen didn't actually sign up for that, and the boy said that Liesel wasn't here, so he wanted to at least be with the cat. It seemed that the cat did not quite agree with this, so the maid decided to ask what His Highness would say about this. Chester remarked that he thought they had no choice, so they could leave her there for now until her owner came for her. The cat was in shock with you, that they really wanted to keep his child when it seemed to him that she wanted to eat him alive when he came and saw them there. The boy understood that he was now responsible for the cat. The maid asked him to cover himself with a blanket. She also added that Lady Liesel said that she would be back very soon, so he need not worry about her absence. Lapel was delighted that she would return and began to ask his uncle if this was true, and he confirmed it. The lady went home for a short time, so he shouldn't worry but just sleep peacefully. Lapel was very pleased. The butler reported that he had brought whatever the gentleman had asked for. Chester asked him if he was sure it would work. It's a magic ring of control. It can regulate the weight and restrict the movement of a person if he wants. Then the cat will not be able to leave even this room. After this, the master ordered him to get to work. Meanwhile, the maid decided to go for milk. The master and the butler did not mind, because for now they would be able to look after the young master. Roan pointed up and asked the gentleman what was up there. In the meantime, he managed to attach a control ring to the cat. Now he will not be able to take human form. So he started trying to shake it off. And Lapel started to worry, but the Turk said he would get used to it, so there was no need to worry. This way they can wait for her owner to arrive, otherwise she might run away. She will be safe in the house. Hyson knew he was doomed and he couldn't let his guard down. Meanwhile, the maid brought the master's milk. The Duke and the butler said that it was time for them to go and that the maid would take care of him herself. Roan noted that all urgent matters seemed to be settled. The gentleman agreed with him, but she asked him to be attentive with the cat and to report everything to him if something happened. He also asked to install a swing in the garden. Roan was surprised and asked again. Chester just thought that the boy would be less lonely if he had something to play with. Of course the butler will take care of it. He seems cold, but in fact he is so attentive to details. It is an honor to meet the Duke. She is Aisha Henneron. The gentleman was glad to see them and noted that she had grown a lot since the last time they saw each other. The young gentleman noted that she was already 5. The Duke was surprised that they had not seen each other for 5 years. The man apologized to him for coming to visit, only now Chester noted that he, after all, knew what position he was in. Urte was grateful to him for his understanding, only he understood his situation. He also noted that he had heard that his nephew had gone missing, so he decided to inquire about how the search for him was progressing. Chester noted that there was no need to worry because he had already found him. Urte noted that his uncle had found the baby he was looking for, and that was just great. The little girl said that she was very happy for him, and the gentleman was very grateful to the young lady. But she is such a beauty, and her father was not like that in childhood, so she most likely took after Sylvia. Urte suggested to Chester that he ask the butler to show the girl around the mansion. The girl noticed that it was so beautiful here. The butler showed in which direction the greenhouse was located. Aisha said that they had a very beautiful garden, and then she saw the swing. They had just recently installed them, so the butler offered her a ride on them. However, she decided to refuse because they were 4 children. Roan thought that she was probably having to grow up quickly because of her mother's illness. That's why he said that adults swing sometimes too. Then the girl wants to ride for just a minute. She really is limiting herself. Roan asked her to hold on tightly and began to rock the mistress. Well, suddenly a boy appeared there and started asking her who she was, and also said that it was his swing, so she should get up. Liesel asked if they had any other debts, but father said no, and that was it. Actually, he wanted to settle the matter with you, but she really helps them out. Liesel said that in that case, she and her mother would go to the bank. Well, her mother said that she should rest, because that's the least they can do for her now to give her a rest from the journey. There was nothing difficult about it, and she had already rested, but she said that her daughter had worked so hard to pay off the debt, and now she should just laze around for a bit. Her father asked her to do as she said because she could not be rejected. Still, she agreed. Her parents asked her to rest while they went to the bank. Liesel couldn't even say a word about the wedding and even wants to tell her, but everything is very complicated. She decided that she would tell them immediately upon their return. She noticed a carrot on the table which reminded her of Lapel, and she became interested in how the boy was doing. Roan told the boy to stand still because the young lady might fall. Lapel shouted that he didn't care, so he had to tell her to get off his swing. Because the maid made them for her, he hadn't even rocked them yet, but she already had. Tia asked the young gentleman what he was doing. She said that this was not the way to greet guests. They could swing with him later, but the boy screamed and called that he hated this girl. Aisha said that she was getting up already. Roan told Lita that she didn't have to get up. Well, she said that she had played enough The Child Wants to Swing. Lapel began to say that he was not a child at all. Aisha believed me in his words. And she also said that he is shorter than her. It seems that there will soon be a fight between the children, so the maid said she would take the boy into the room. Lapel continued to say that he was not a child. Tia told the boy that they should go get something to eat or play in his room, because they could play with his favorite magic balls. Aisha said that he says that he is not a child but still plays with magic balls. The boy became very angry and said that these were not children's toys, and he threw pebbles at her feet. The butler and the maid were in complete shock, and the boy continued to be angry. They immediately started asking how the lady was feeling. Aisha asked him what he had done and told him to apologize immediately, throwing dirt at him. The children started fighting because no one felt guilty. When their father and uncle stood in front of them, they still decided to ask the children what happened between them. Rowan pointed out that it was his fault because he should have separated them. Urte didn't understand what had happened because it didn't look like his daughter at all. The girl said that this fool had dirtied her shoes and immediately started crying. Her mother prepared clothes like this even though she was sick, and he does this. Chester turned to the boy and said that he did not understand at all why he did this. Lapel stood there in tears and started screaming at him not to look at her like that because she had done nothing wrong. He just wanted to be the first to swing on the swing that the maid made for him, and she also said that Liesel's gifts were for children. Afterwards, he asked him not to cry and said that nothing terrible had happened. Then he took him in his arms and hugged him. The men apologized to each other, but after all, they are children. Lapel has already fallen asleep, so they will go and apologize next time. Aisha also decided to apologize for this, but Chester told the young ladies that it was not worth it because the boy was also to blame. Then they will be leaving. The Duke asked them to be careful on the way. Urte noted that he had said that he would be getting married soon, so they asked him to accept his congratulations. Since he is no longer a bachelor, he asks to come to them next time with his daughter-in-law. Rowan asked the gentleman if everything was okay. The Duke realized that he had a bride and he was really going to get married. The woman was offering the Duke a house with a 150-year history and considered it a good option. Another man asked the Duke to pay attention to their distillery. Because their wine has already become popular, everyone will benefit. You have to be practical and elegant, so the woman suggests fashionable clothes. The other man says that his project is also good. Chester asked the butler what he would say. Well, he didn't understand why he needed to urgently invest money somewhere. The gentleman said that this was not so. It would be a gift for the parents of his future wife, obviously. The butler said that they would consult with the gentleman, and they would inform them about everything later. The Duke didn't understand why he sent them away, because he hadn't chosen yet. The river said that it wasn't right, and that they should just buy something simpler. For him, it's just money, but for others, it's a burden and responsibility. And so suddenly, he decided to get married, and then this people will think that he decided to bribe the lady with money. But Chester really doesn't know what to give. The butler thought that something not too expensive and flashy was needed. A small gift. The gentleman thought about it when he ate when he slept, and could not think of anything. They will hate him for a bad gift, but if it's true, maybe I will like him too. In the morning, the butler woke up the master and was surprised with you that he was already up. Rowan noticed dark circles under his eyes, so he decided to ask if the gentleman had slept at all. Chester decided what to buy. Moreover, the butler believed that he was worried about meeting the lady's parents. The wedding, it turns out, is all Morocco. He respected him because he is a married man. Rowan was confident that his master would handle everything. He was surprised that he was already leaving. And she also noted that he probably had other plans for today. Chester said that he felt like he was already stuck in one place. Therefore, he would have to be more decisive, and he decided to take a walk, buy a gift, and go to the meeting. And that seemed to be it. After this, the master asked the butler how he looked. Rowan said that his master was simply stunning, and they will definitely not be disappointed in him. The gentleman hopes for this and will return soon. The butler was sure that everything would go well, so the gentleman should not worry, because he would not be alone, and the lady would help him. She's probably already told her parents everything, so they'll welcome him with open arms. The gentleman was surprised and noted that he felt a little better after his words, so he was grateful to him, and really there was no need to worry. The parents were completely shocked when they heard about the wedding because they didn't understand at all what she was talking about. Her father didn't understand who allowed her to leave her father's house so early. Her father was against it, period. There is a reaction a little worse than she expected. The Duke will arrive soon, so things are bad. She should have told him all about it on the first day, but now she can't do anything. So Liesel asked her parents to calm down. Her father said that his daughter, who had never even dated anyone before, had suddenly decided to get married. He said that such a thing was simply impossible. The mother thought that her daughter was probably joking, but they were just too old for such humor. Liesel said it wasn't a joke and there was someone she really liked. Mom decided to ask if she had thought it through carefully. Father said that marriage is a very important decision. The girl thought a lot and came to this decision. They don't have to worry because he's a nice guy, and if they meet, she thinks they'll like him too. But the parents were against any meetings because the father did not need any son-in-law because his daughter was too young for that. Before this, they did everything their daughter wanted and even went bankrupt. Because of this, she is so opposed to her marriage. So she decided to say that she was no longer a child, but a girl who had already debuted. He can't accept it because he loves his daughter with all his heart. What kind of man is he? Liesel said that she really loved him. She tried to say something to her father, but he didn't want to listen to her. And in general, he somehow strangely distanced himself from her. Still, Liesel decided to tell him that he himself had married his mother when he was 20 years old. Well, he said it was different. Abby told her husband that she wanted to talk about it when they had all calmed down a little. The butler informed the gentleman that Duke Chester Hylos had arrived. The Baron did not understand at all why he should be there. The girl said that she would be there and back in a jiffy. Liesel didn't understand at all why he was here because she still had 2 hours. Chester noted that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. He must have decided to seduce her parents. It might have been because she hadn't seen him for a few days, but he became much more handsome after a couple of days. But she doesn't believe that this is it. Now is not the time to admire him at all, so she decided to apologize. Everything is bad without him? We need to ask him to come later. Suddenly her mother came out and greeted Herzen. She believed that he was there because of her daughter, so she asked him to come into the estate. The lady was surprised that he did not arrive alone. He was acting as he said that they should not worry because these people would be waiting outside. By the way, it's nice to meet her. She is Liesel's mother, Rosalie. The Duke was glad to meet her. Mama said that she was still talking to her father and she should show the guests to the living room. When Mom left, Liesel noted that they had not agreed on this and did not understand at all why he had come so early. Left home early to unwind a bit too. Bought presents 3. Left too soon and arrived so soon. That's why he was most likely waiting at the entrance. The butler came out and saw them. If he told her everything, she would probably think that he did it out of boredom, so he apologized and said that his previous meeting was canceled. The lady understood everything, but now was not the best time. The Duke was surprised that everything was so serious. To be honest, she told me everything only some time ago, a little earlier. And her parents are against this marriage. The Duke understood her. The lady said that she thought it would be difficult to persuade them, especially her father, but today he only came to meet her, so she thinks that everything will go well. Liesel didn't understand at all why he suddenly approached her. Perhaps it was a kiss. In fact, the gentleman simply decided to remove a hair from her face. She turned very red. It was such a shame and disgrace. The lady hoped he hadn't seen her pout. They will have a fictitious marriage, but if the Duke is too close, it could be a test for her. He is so good that there are simply no words.